Thank you. Moving on to item number 1, approval of the minutes for the June 13th, 2023 CDBG grant app administration tabulation, the June 20th, 2023 workshop, and the June 20th, 2023 regular board meeting. Are there any corrections, or do I have a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Land, second by Commissioner Perkins. All in favor, aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Moving on to the consent agenda, pull item number 7 for discussion. Is there any others?
No.
Seeing none, we'll be considering items 2 through 6, 8, and 9. Is there any discussion or a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Land,
I'll second.
second by Commissioner Mobley. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Item number 7, authorize county administrator to award bid 2023-12 chip seal road surface treatment to Asphalt Paving Systems Incorporated to use on an as-needed basis. Mr. Scott.
Mr. Chairman, Board, as you recall, the prices changed on granite. The company that had the contract, we cannot work through the contract for their price increases. We rebid it. The same company bid again with some increases in cost. I make a recommendation that we award the bid, but I'd like to, after we do that, talk about the roads specifically that we set aside the money for and get approval for moving forward with those projects also.
Did you happen to bring a copy of the old contract we had with them,
I did bring a contract, no, sir.
or pricing?
Do we have that, Mandy?
Okay, that's fine. I just,
It shows on the sheet, and I've got other copies for the audience if you would like any. Comparison of original cost versus the current cost by project on the front page.
okay, all right, I see it now. I'm sorry.
So first, if y'all want to entertain a motion to approve the chip seal bid that we received would be the first step.
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Perkins.
Scott, is this the only company we have that do chip seal? I don't want to see the only one bid you got.
Only one we're aware of.
The one you're aware of?
They're traditionally the only ones that have been bidding on the projects.
I was just wondering, because I know we had one person bidding on it. It'd be kind of creating a monopoly. He is the only one that's working.
And they-
Can we reach out and get anyone else to bid?
We have not found anybody else that does the same process.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I also so moved that we accept this bid. Bid number 2023-12, chip seal surface and treatment.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Perkins to accept.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Land. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous.
Mr. Chairman, it is in your packets or the sheets we passed out, and again, we've got copies if anybody would like another one. We've got the original price that was bid before, and then the new price per the 3 projects we had listed to do chip seal. And Mr. Morrison would need to guide me in how to ask you to approve those upcharges. Total of $54,700 for the additional cost on all 3 of those, total of those projects.
Are these separate from the?
We bid them before the contract. We based the pricing based on the new price.
Yeah, and that's the price that they approved today.
Right.
So it's fine.
Right.
This is the one we had to resend out.
Correct. Right.
Adam, can you turn your microphone on, please?
I'm sorry. For the record, what I was inquiring of the administrator was The issue before was when they had won the bid previously, they had bid the chip seal in at a price certain. The price went up, and the law forbids us from just allowing them to amend. So there's no issue doing it under the rebid with the amended price.
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Lane?
Yeah, I'm sure Commissioner Hale will second me on this or agree with me, but it's and for the public, it's a $54,764.54 increase on the 3 roads, and it's my understanding that all the base work has already been done by our guys. I mean, you got lime rock, you got labor, you got time out there. I mean, I hate to say, you know, not to do it, but I mean, these folks that do live on these roads been getting promised that their road will be chip sealed for probably 3 years now. I know at least 155th has, and well, more than that. It was promised by the previous commissioner of my district, but I mean, I think we can find the 54,000. If not, we're turning our back on more than that in the amount of time and rock that we put down and prep for the chip seal, I would say, wouldn't you, Commissioner Hale?
I would, and I would also add that obviously these are problematic roads, and they've cost us more than that in repairs, so, and will continue if we don't do something about it. So,
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Lane?
Mr. Scott, you have a resource for this increase in cost?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So,
I believe we had a motion by Commissioner Perk. Didn't you make a motion to approve it?
we already
Yes,
approved.
yes, to accept the bid, accept the bid,
That was just the bid.
yeah.
Do you need a motion on
So
this
you need a
one?
motion on this?
Better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it.
So we'll need a motion to approve the, I guess, the upcharge or just the whole project in general?
Probably be cleanest, Chairman, just to move to accept the project as priced, with the final price as priced out here, so that way it's inclusive of everything.
So a motion to accept the whole cost of all 3 roads for a total of $253,029.76.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Land,
second.
second by Commissioner Hale. All in favor, aye? Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Moving on to item number 10, legislative and appropriations update by, I guess, Jimmy Norris. Oh, is Mike here?
He's right there.
Oh, there he is.
He's standing up in the back.
Sorry, Mike.
He just got here, so we're gonna make him wait.
Okay.
Actually, Mike is coming because he knows a lot more about this stuff than I do. But I wanted to obviously introduce him to kind of bring him up. I know most folks here know him. You guys know him well, and I will do that. But I wanted to mention real quick, because I'm gonna be up here about 10 times tonight, so I didn't want to have a special call thing. But we were at FACT last week. I know y'all will probably talk about that, but I did want to give a shout out to all of you guys. Even the attorney was there periodically. So no, but Mr. Scott and the commissioners that were there and the county attorney, some good stuff, and we learned a lot. But I just thought I should point out, and y'all can talk about it later, but 2 of the commissioners, while we were there, got a bunch of goodie bags to carry home. No, I'm kidding, Mr. Perkins, I'm kidding. 2 of our commissioners received the 22-23 Presidential Advocacy Award, and that's for their participation in service in the Florida Association of Counties and what they've done. And that would be Commissioner Perkins and Commissioner Mobley. So again, I know y'all talk about this later, but I just want to say thank you, and I appreciate what y'all were doing. And you know, obviously the state of Florida recognized it, and they were in the official program that went out. So I want to be sure the world knew you were doing good things.
Thank you.
I know it's surprising, right? Me too when I saw that. I was like, what? Come on. But anyway, I want to bring up Mike Grissom, our lobbyist. Mike was down there with us last week as well. And, you know, Mike is, as you guys know, been in the middle of 100 things, 1,000 things, 1,000,000 things with us this year. And he's going to give us some updates on where we are on appropriations, how that turned out for us, as well as some legislative updates. I am going to pass out the list that he's kind of looking at, so you guys will have a copy in case he looks at a specific line. These are kind of all the numbers that were passed out this year. So, Mr. Grissom, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Jimmy. I hope one of you guys gave one of the commissioners your presidential ribbon that he was so jealous of, that fact.
Already gave him that.
Mine was longer anyway.
I'm going to leave that one alone. It was great seeing you guys last week. For those of you who couldn't make it, you missed an excellent dinner. I can tell you that much. I wanted to start off with, the budget process that we went through this year. And I'd like to first off, thank you guys. It was probably about a year and a half ago I was standing in front of you guys giving my initial pitch on, my services. And Commissioner Land threw me out as the 2%ers didn't need to stay for the rest of the meeting, which I think I told the chairman this last week. I went home and I called my wife on the way home. I said, I know what I'm going to do when I retire. I'm going to, retire, move to Suwannee County, run for county commission just so I can complain about trash pickup. But we started this legislative process a long time ago. Commissioner Jimmy Shannon was in the room. We sat down and we developed priorities that you guys wanted to see. A lot of those priorities wrapped around the industrial site. We targeted our priorities. We went after them. We got Senator Simon and Representative Schoaf on board early to support those appropriations. Had all the forms filled out, got everything in and done, and then the budget came out and nothing was there. And we had to scramble a little bit. Went to see Senator Simon and his staff. A lot of new staff in Tallahassee, a lot of new processes, people learning how to do things. And I'll tell you guys that you weren't the only county that saw that happen, but I can tell you you're the only county that saw that happen and got all their appropriations in the budget at the end of the day. Ended up working with the Senate President's office, actually. The Senate did a big budget amendment to the Appropriations Act. We got all your projects in. Went and worked the process. And unfortunately, I say fortunately, everything that we really targeted and went after got appropriated and then didn't get vetoed. We apologize, Chairman, about your soccer fields. But the only Suwannee County project that got vetoed.
That's all right. You just get to work twice as hard next year. And that's the only one that counts on the 10-to-1 ratio, by the way. And we didn't get it, so.
Yeah. Yes, sir. So all in all, Suwannee County's bringing home a little more than $23 million from the state this year. I can't say we did all of that on our own. A lot of the stuff is built-in programs that, the state funds proportionally. Jimmy actually did make me do some homework today on the scrap program. And out of $23.7 million total budgeted, you'll see here you guys got $6.3 million of it. So that's about 22% of the overall scrap program in the state of Florida. So big win for Suwannee County. This goes on top of, I want to harken back because I haven't got to see you guys since our $9.6 million Rural Infrastructure Fund project that we won here, other than at dinner. I haven't got to see you two guys since that happened. But, so all in all, $1.1 million job growth grant fund earlier, $1.9 million job growth grant fund earlier there. Great wins for Suwannee County. I can tell you guys are on the radar of the governor's office. The deputy chief of staff, actually now the Secretary of Commerce, the new Department of Commerce that's happening, Alex Kelly, knows you guys, knows your projects, knows what's happening. So you guys are in a great shape. Wanted to touch on something else Jimmy asked me to touch on. Not only was it appropriations this year, but we were doing some legislative work as well, mostly through my representation of the Florida Rural Economic Development Association, but we really championed a bill this year that actually, funny enough, was passed by Representative Schoaf and Senator Simon that took into account rural economic development projects for rural counties. So first part of that bill is now any grant that you get, you can claim financial hardship and you don't have to put out the money, the reimbursement, before you get the money back from the state. Any agency, we kind of focus it around DEO, but any state agency that you can receive a grant from, you don't have to put out the money before you can reimburse. You just show them the work's been done and they'll pay you right there, and then you can pay the vendor. So big win for there. And then the second part was the Rural Infrastructure Fund out of DEO. So two big changes for that. One, that used to be a matching grant. 50%, or was it 25% or 50%? 50%, we got it changed. So half the money had to come up from the county before you could apply for that grant. That's been waived, now it's gone. So now all rural infrastructure fund projects, you do not have to have an upfront matching grant for that part. You can just ask for the money and they give it to you. The second part that we changed was prior, the rural infrastructure fund had to have a job creation number attached to the application. We were being successful in getting that waived as well. So you no longer have to have a project in hand before you can ask for a grant. So if you know there's a site that you need fixed and you don't have a project that's already there but need it fixed before you can get a project in, you can go apply for a rural infrastructure fund. And that was funded to the tune of $25 million this year, that rural infrastructure fund. So more money to go after. We got to get you guys the applications. The money will become available any day now. So we're there. I ran through that pretty quick. If anybody has any specific questions about individual appropriations other than the soccer fields, I'm happy to take them. But we got you guys some fire trucks, some water towers, and I was talking to Jimmy and Greg already. So we start early this year. This year's the January start date for session. Committee weeks will start in late September. So we got to get back on the ball and figure out our asks again for next year and get moving. We got one more year of Representative Renner and Speaker Renner and President Pasadomo, so I want to make sure that we keep on this high track we're on.
Mike, we appreciate what you've done. It was, I know everybody put a lot of hard work into it, and just want to say thank you.
No, sir. I want to give you guys a lot of credit. Again, standing up here about a year and a half ago, I'm glad you guys hired me. Like working with you guys a lot, but I honestly, no, this is not speaking great of me in any way. It's speaking good of the fact that we have, I'm in Tallahassee walking the halls every day. I don't see you guys getting those numbers up like that just because of the way budget turned out the first time. So your foresight of going out and getting me to be over there every day advocating for you guys, I give you guys credit for that.
Does the public have a copy of this sheet?
Here's a few copies left, Mr. Chairman, that
Well, I was
anybody
just,
wanted.
while Mike's standing there, I just going to run down through here and read what was appropriated and what it was for. Suwannee County Agricultural Complex and Coliseum, $620,000. Suwannee River Regional Library, $26,648. School Readiness Services, Early Learning Services, $1.919 million. Voluntary Pre-K Program, $572,000. River Oak Technical College, $4 million. Brantford Public Library, $500,000. Brantford Area Platform Fire Truck, $475,000. Suwannee County Fire Rescue Pump Engine, $800,000. Well, my soccer field.
We're not going to read that one off.
Yeah, that one got scratched. Suwannee County Industrial Complex Rail Crossing, $500,000. Preliminary engineering consultants, $1.53 million. Small County Resurface Assistance Program, $6.3 million. Brantford Sprayfield Project, $300,000. Live Oak Improvements US 129 West, $304,000. Suwannee County Service Subscription and Removal of Commercial and Residential Wells, $2 million. Suwannee County Industrial Complex Sewer Plant, $2 million. Prepping Institutions Program Employers and Learners through Incentives for Nursing Education, $222,000. Public Schools Workforce Education Program, $1.637 million. And the $9 million for the
I think you missed the Suwannee County Industrial Complex water transmission line for
Yep, sure did.
$250,000.
$250,000 more.
So 23.9 million total.
So I just wanted everybody to hear that, so you know what it was for.
And for you all, and for anybody that wants to see this, anything that has one of these SF or HFs next to it with a number, those are member projects. And previously, one of you called me. I won't mention names. One of you called me and asked me how many ever member projects had you ever gotten through for Suwannee County prior to this year, and the answer was one. The biggest number was $750,000. It was last year. It was for our ag center that we snuck in at the end of the budget and made sure it didn't get vetoed last year. So, stark improvement over prior years. So, congratulations.
Thank you, Mike.
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Land.
Mr. Grissom, I just want to say thank you for all your hard work that you do. And obviously, boots on the ground in Tallahassee make a large impact in what happens. And as you just said, previously, $750,000 in appropriations in most recent years, and here we're in the millions.
Yes, sir.
Tens of millions.
Tens of millions.
So thank you for that on behalf of our citizens of this county. We appreciate what you did for us, and I'm glad that this other board members also agreed that we needed to at least try this out with you, and I think that it's paid off. So thank you.
My pleasure. And I'll use my joke. I always joke, you don't have to thank me, you pay me. But I don't do this out of the goodness of my heart, but I do. But no, you guys have been, it's been a pleasure. Honestly, these guys know, I'll let the community know, I represent Columbia County, your neighbors over there to the east, and it's a completely different relationship. I work with the county manager and the economic development person. That's it. I've met the chairman a couple of times at different events, but not nearly as active in what I've been doing as you guys are. So I give you guys kudos for getting active. And it's troubling some guys. You guys don't let Jimmy leave me alone, ever. But Jimmy's doing his good work. And I told him I would give him his credit, where his credit is due, as I probably wouldn't ever met you guys if not for Jimmy dragging me out to meet you guys. So my pleasure. And please keep up the engagement, because that's the way it makes it work. And I'm happy to do it even when it's me calling the chairman and not having him call the state rep and nailing at him. So
we need a good buffer there.
You're like O'Reilly's, you're the first call.
Easy stuff.
remember that, Jimmy? I'm the first.
Hold on. That stabs a little part. Mr. Chairman, I would like to add that, because a lot of folks don't know, we give you a hard time.
No.
We really do, each and every one of us. And then when you get us all together in Tallahassee, we really give him a hard time. So he has worked hard, and I was skeptical. I'll be honest with you guys. I just because we had never done that before, we'd never spent that kind of money before, and always making that first leap can be a little, intimidating. But I'm impressed, and I thank you, and what we've done for the people of Suwannee County is amazing. I appreciate that.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Anybody else?
We appreciate working with you. It's been a good time seeing all the little events too. So
Yes, sir.
we appreciate all you do.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Oh,
Yes,
my
sir.
favorite commissioner.
Yes, Mr. Mike, we do appreciate all you've done, man. You just feeling like you're part family with us.
Yes, sir.
And we get at those meetings, you don't run to hide from us, but you run to us, and you may run from Jimmy, but you do run towards us, and
Y'all are
appreciate
okay.
all the things you do for us, the meals and all, and getting us over in the Capitol and taking us all through, man. You really have did great things for us, and I look forward to giving the card already, so I'm going to work on that as well.
Yes, sir. Well, yeah, always happy to help. You guys are great. Again, you do give me a bit of a hard time, which I enjoy. But
It's all out of love.
But no, I mean, look, this is one of those things where the growth and the tremendous success we had this year makes it worth it. And I'll tell you guys, because of I got to walk into Calhoun County when they were considering hiring me, and I kind of laid out what I had gotten for you guys in the budget this year, and they hired me on the spot at the meeting. So don't worry, you're still my favorite, Chairman.
No, we get a finder's fee out of that, so we need a cut.
It comes out of your 10 to 1, 5 to 1, 5 to 1 is what I remember. If we can go back to the record of the minutes of the meeting.
I didn't negotiate that well, I don't think.
We just now Greg and I worked it out. It's either I just ask for more money or I just work for you until I die.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Chairman.
you.
Thanks, Mike.
Chairman,
Yes,
I'd just like to,
That was great.
Mike alluded to it, I'd like to just reiterate the importance of having the commission behind, having lobbyists, the work that staff does behind the scenes, what Jimmy and Chris has done to help keep plugging it away, and obviously Mike too, but it's relationships. And it makes a difference when you got your team in Tallahassee getting involved and bringing it back. So again, Mike, thank you for your work, and I appreciate everybody's efforts all the way through. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
I just, real quick, I do need to apologize because I did call Mike every day. And some of those conversations weren't exactly pleasant, especially whenever the budget came out, and all of my projects at the Catalyst site were not in the budget, right? Where'd he go?
It wasn't even on there.
Weren't even in there. After the budget was released, they were not in there. If you'd asked me if I thought we would ever be able to get those projects in the budget, after the budget had already been printed, and then we'd have been able to get those projects funded at the level we asked for, I'm sorry. Can you hear me now? So I guess my point is, you know, Mike's done a lot, and there's a lot of other people. Mike didn't do all this work. We didn't do all this work. There's a lot of agencies that worked on a lot of this stuff. But I can tell you that there was not a dollar going to the catalyst site. We were dead in the water on every one of those projects, and I don't know how he did it. I don't know if I want to know how he did it. But we got every one of those projects up there and got them funded. So I want to personally thank him for that because I literally probably called him every day, and I was not happy. So anyway, just want the public to know.
There was some of them text messages I wasn't even reading.
You probably should.
Thank you. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Jimmy. Appreciate it. Item number 11, presentation of Home Rule Community Resolution by Moses Klepper, representative of the American Patriots. Mr. Klepper.
Sir, Moses Klepper, 14581 102nd Pat, Live Oak. And this is a resubmittal after having conversation with legal counsel. We tweaked some of the verbiage and hopefully it'll be motioned and seconded and passed tonight.
Do we need to read this?
Technically, no, it's part of the agenda, so that puts notice on it, but
Do you want to kind of hit the highlights on it, Mr. Klepper, for the public, or?
Well, we submitted it before on April 4th, and it was read, the chairman read it. The only difference in what's been resubmitted and what was read that night is we removed or replaced the word oppose with the word object. And it's a fine line. I was leaning on trying to get an ordinance out of this, and I'm not sure I still have clarity on it. We are a home rule state, but we are not a home rule charter, and that maybe our county attorney could explain that more.
Sure. Mr. Chairman, I was invited to it.
Mr. Morrison?
So the first draft of this, Mr. Klepper and I went over. So yes, we are a home, under the Florida Constitution, we are a home rule county, but we have a home rule county only so far as the legislature chooses to give it to us because we don't have a charter. So stated differently, because we're wholly a subsidiary of the state of Florida, at any point in time, the legislature can vote and change the form of government specific to Suwannee County, a la what happened with Disney and their home rule board. So because we're wholly an entity of the state of Florida and completely subservient to the state of Florida and the United States, the previous version of the proposed bill, the proposal by Mr. Klepper, uses the word oppose. Well, oppose infers, and I saw Sheriff St. John here, that we're going to get in the middle or oppose, some sort of state action. So, for example, if FDLE were down here executing a warrant that somebody felt was in violation of this particular ordinance, we're not sending the Suwannee County Sheriff out there to oppose them. So instead, we changed it to objects to and made it from an ordinance into a resolution. So the substantive difference is before it would have called for affirmative action on behalf of the county. It is now, for lack of a better phrase, and I don't mean this to be dismissive, as I said this to Mr. Klepper, it transformed this into a political statement on behalf of the Board of County Commissioners. So essentially, the Board of County Commissioners is simply stating that it agrees with the assertions contained within the resolution and it objects to actions taken by the state or federal government, which would be contrary to the value statements contained within the resolution. But it's a political statement that doesn't create any policy that would need to be enforced, if that difference makes sense.
It does. Thank you.
What I'd like to have been able to say it.
Sir,
That's what I'd like to have been able to say.
that's why he gets paid the big bucks.
I guess so.
Is, Commissioner Mobley?
So if we was to adopt this resolution, would it have any kind of negative effect on the county or?
No, it's simply, again, I don't mean this to sound dismissive of it. It's an important political statement, but it's a political statement. It's not a policy. There's no money being spent. We're not doing anything as a result of this. It simply is, for lack of a better phrase, stating the values of the county through this resolution.
I appreciate everything y'all do for the county, the American Patriots, Ms. Donna Long, and everything. We appreciate y'all. And I'd like to make a motion to approve this resolution of the home rule.
Before we get that far, has anybody else got any questions?
Go ahead. Mr.
No,
Lane.
I don't know.
I was just going to say, I mean, it's not that I have any questions immediately. I mean, I did see what you had presented before. Obviously, I've seen this when the agenda came out late last week, but, you know, being a holiday weekend, things going on, I haven't had a chance to ask anyone outside of at all, to be honest with you. And again, you kind of asked a question, Commissioner Mobley. My only concern is how will it affect us long-term? When I say us, the county, and the people, the citizens of Suwannee County. And no offense to Mr. Adam down there, but I'm sure he understands it. But, I mean, it's a resolution, but we make resolutions that carry weight.
I don't mean to dismiss the making of a political statement, and in the future, if there's an administration that disagrees with this political statement, I can't argue there won't be ramifications, but in terms of immediate policy, no.
So I would just put that out there for discussion, just kind of add that. I mean, again, not against it, not saying I'm against it, not saying I'm for it. I just think I would like maybe by the next meeting, 2 weeks, to do a little more research, maybe make some phone calls to you and have some conversation that we haven't had about it, and Adam, of course, and whoever else I may want to reach out to. Do you know how many other counties in the state of Florida have done this?
I don't know that any have. But I do know that it was submitted to this board on April 4th, and the only verbiage that has changed is that one word. Everything else is identical. So if it was reviewed by this board back on April 4th, and there were no questions then, I struggled to understand why there's hesitation now.
I'll tell you, on my part, because I had 2 attorneys that gave me 2 different answers. So,
And the previous version of the previous version I would not have been able, and I said this to Mr. Klepper, I couldn't sign off on, hence the change to the language.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Land?
on the, not to you, but to Mr. Morrison, on the objection replaced with opposes, is that for everywhere the word appears, or is that any one particular place? Because I don't see opposes anywhere on this copy. I think it was made after these went out. Is that right?
Right, and I want to be very clear here as to my role, so I don't want anybody to understand. I'm not advocating for or against this resolution.
I understand.
At all.
I understand.
I'm simply stating, so the original draft, which was the one prepared when Mr. Pravat was here, where, for example, where you see, now therefore be it resolved that the County of Suwannee affirms its strong objection to terrorism.
Opposition.
It would say it's strong opposition, which I don't think that's not objectionable, but where, and to speak to Commissioner Hale's concern, for example, be it further resolved that it is the policy of the County of Suwannee to object to any portion of the USA Patriot Act, USA Freedom Act, or other act, order, or measure that would violate the rights and liberties guaranteed equally under the state and federal constitutions. So the previous version of that had, instead of object, it was oppose. So we can't oppose, as a county, anybody trying to enforce what is the law of the land. We can make a political statement, or this board can make a political statement of objecting to a federal or a state policy. But again, I offer no opinion at all on the merits of it.
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Land?
I don't if Commissioner Hale needs some additional time, then I'm okay with that as well. But in the event that he does not, I'm okay with the resolution as it appears. I mean, I did read it the first time. I've read it again and just pinned in some changes. It is a political statement. I mean, I think that most all of our beliefs align with that of the Patriot and their conservative views. But nonetheless, Commissioner Hale sits on this board, and if he needs additional time, then by all means, that's been granted to me in the past, so I would
Sure.
grant it to him as well.
And again, two things. My concern is, again, I know it's on the agenda and it was on there before, but it was a holiday weekend. We're having a meeting on an odd night out, just in case someone from the public had any concerns. I want to make sure they had an opportunity. And the other was just to, and no offense to Mr. Adam, but maybe get some more opinion. You know, as he stated when we hired him, and some of these things wasn't in his expertise of house, and I appreciate him being honest with us about all that. So, and again, I just don't know if there's any or no ramifications whatsoever. A lot of stuff I agree with, absolutely, 100%. I mean, we want to make sure that our community does as well. And
Mr. Chairman, may I ask Mr. Morrison, is this not in effect as little risk or the similar risk as the resolution made for the Fourth Amendment in this county?
Candidly, I wasn't on the board at this time, or acting as county attorney at the time. I haven't looked at that particular one, but I can't speak to Mr. Hale's concerns, which are legitimate, if we make a political statement, that by definition means that somebody may dislike some of that political statements, and he wants to understand the ramifications of that. I think ultimately is what, I don't mean to put words in your mouth, Commissioner.
Sure.
And so this is making a different political statement than that one. So I can't speak to, again, because it's really not my job to speak as to the merits of anything. So because it's making a different political statement, I would be hesitant to say it's the same as that one.
Well, I wasn't trying to say exactly the same, but as far as ramifications.
In terms of what
whatever.
it does, you're
Right.
correct.
Okay.
Well, right now, I've got a motion on the floor that we need to deal with, so there's already a motion made by Commissioner Mobley to accept. Is there a second?
Well, Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Lynn?
I
Or
guess
Mr. Mobley can rescind his motion.
he could. I just want to be clear that I'm okay with the resolution as it is. However, on behalf of Commissioner Hale, if he's not ready to vote on it and needs additional time, I don't want to stomp on his toes and tell him tough luck.
Well, I've heard, and y'all can go and have the conversation. There's other commissioners. I mean, you guys can weigh in if you want to. I may be the only one that feels this way. If that's the case, I mean, y'all, we can move on with it. But
I haven't. I mean,
Well,
you're right.
I've
There's
read
two
it
other-
twice, and there's nothing that, from my conservative point of view, that I disagree with.
And that's why I say, I think it's more just as our attorney put it, making sure that our community, which I appreciate the group that you represent here tonight and what they're trying to do, and they've done nothing but positive things for our community, 100%. But I want to make sure we're representing everybody, all groups and all folks. But, I mean, again, just a quick read of it, I mean, it falls right in line with a lot of everything, I believe. Has anyone here in the public have had a chance to look at this or see this or read this? Anyone? Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, what public comment?
Podium.
Just to say, Shannon Roberts, 1232 Irvin Avenue, Southwest Live Oak.
Thank you, sir.
I love what it says, and I like the political statement and how it reflects values. My only concern is the unknown, and I don't know how we could know this, but we are the recipients of more than $23 million in funding, part of which comes from the federal government as well. and it flows down in several different ways. My only concern is, could this affect funding? I don't know. I don't know if we'll ever know, but that's the only little thing that pops out in my mind. And as much as I appreciate the values and the strong statement, I love it, but I think we would all certainly regret if this had a backfire effect that no one intended to create, that resulted in political agencies who are political decided, okay. Now, I don't know if that'll happen, so I'm just raising it as just a point. I don't want to derail any discussions, just thought I'd throw that out there, gentlemen.
Thank you, sir.
And I have a comment on that, if I may.
Yes,
Benjamin
sir.
Franklin once said, I believe it was him, said if those that are willing to surrender a little bit of security or liberty for either or the other deserve neither. So if this resolution is going to scare us off of declaring that we don't want to be oppressed by the federal government or executive orders or unconstitutional infringements like the mandates that they tried to stick our kids with, put poison in our kids' arms. Y'all want to do that? Y'all out there want your kids stuck with poison? You want them to mandate and tell you that it's okay? That's what this is about. It's telling that our leaders in this county are standing up for the citizens of this county and saying, y'all ain't can come in here and just force us to do stuff that's not good for us. And in a sense, it empowers the sheriff even more. Not that he needs any more power. He's got all that he would need to prevent that. But
I don't mean to interrupt, Mr. Klepper, but to be very clear, it does not empower the sheriff or any other entity to actively interfere with a valid legal order from the state or federal government that would apply to Suwannee County.
And if I misspoke on that,
I just don't want to
empower by the statement being made, the resolution being made, that this board is against any unconstitutional acts by the federal government, which the sheriff wouldn't have to wonder how the board feels about it. And on my commissioner's statement that he needs some time, it's been 3 months, over 3 months. And I could read it, I guarantee you I could read it in about 5 minutes. And if I was worried about getting reelected, I'd be more worried about not acting in good faith for the citizens than I would be about how a few of the liberals
Let me let you know, I don't worry about getting reelected. I worry about doing the right thing.
Okay.
Period. That's all I worry about.
Well,
and let that be known.
Well, okay. And I know it's been 3 months since it's submitted, and a 5-minute read. I'm actually insulted that that's the reason that we're considering delaying this.
And I'll be the first one to tell you. No, I want to address it. I'll be the first one to tell you. I haven't circled back to it. There's been bigger fish to fry, to be quite honest with you. There's been things that we've done, and I hasn't come back across. Yeah, it was out of sight, out of mind. I'll be the first one to tell you that. But I'm not opposed to any of this. I just want to. We have rules. We're part of the state of Florida. We're one nation under God. I mean, even if we pass a resolution, does it, and I'll ask the attorney, are we just trying to make a political statement, or are we actually making a difference?
It's merely a political statement.
Okay.
Before we move on to this, anybody else have anything to say on this matter?
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Perkins.
From what I understand of this is that having the home rule, we still have to follow, if you be a home rule county, you still have to follow up on the rules of the state constitution and the federal constitution. So we can't go outside the bounds of that. I don't have any problem with the resolution because Florida is a home rule state, as I was talking to the attorney about. So I don't have a problem with it, but for the clarity and for the relaxing of Commissioner Hale, I would ask that we would just do extend it, if you will, till the next meeting. I mean, just a few more minutes, a little more time. We have a motion on the floor that now is dead, so I would ask a motion that if we will just delay it.
Whoa, Mr. Perkins, it's not dead yet. He
Well,
just
it
made
been-
a motion.
from time-
I was
from
asking
time,
for a
am I right?
second.
No, there's been no second, so we have to ask if there's a second.
Either
Okay.
Mr. Mobley has to rescind the motion, or I gotta have a second.
Okay. Well, okay. Well, I'm good then.
So first I'll ask, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Perkins. All in favor, aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign.
All I asked for was 2 weeks.
Motion carries 4-1. Commissioner Hale voting no.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, sir. Item number 12, presentation of Visit Suwannee's new marketing campaign assets by Mr. Jimmy Norris and Ms. Caritza Setzer.
Y'all gonna need to be able to see, so. Y'all got any-
We're good, good.
Oh, I'm good.
Well, hello, good afternoon. Good to be here again.
Thank you, Mr.
I'm glad you brought her.
Yeah,
So are a lot of other
this
people.
makes it much more appealing.
It absolutely does. I warned y'all I was going to be up here. And actually, I just want to, the reason I'm starting, because she's the one that's done the majority of all this work, is I just want to be sure everybody knows that we're taking the economic development hat off now and we're putting the tourism hat on, okay? So what we're talking about today is tourism. A lot of people don't realize we do that as well through our office, right? So this is a campaign that started many, many moons ago. I'm going to turn it over to Kristen. She's going to kind of walk you through it. And if you guys will bear with us a little bit, this is something we've been working on for months and months and months. So we're going to tell you a little bit of a story and take you on a little bit of a journey, and hopefully you like the results. So, Kristen.
So the Tourist Development Council wanted to update our assets last year, and they decided to get some new pictures and new videos for us to be able to use to market Suwannee County. Our advertising agency, Madden Media, came here for a fam tour, and that's basically just a chance for them to come experience Suwannee County as a visitor. We've actually been working with Madden Media for several years. They've been here a few different times for meetings and things like that, but they've never had a chance to actually experience the county as a visitor. So this trip was for them to experience it as a vacation destination, and so they can understand what we have to offer and help us to be able to market the county. It's one thing for us to try to explain it to them. It's a whole different story when they can have a firsthand experience for themselves. So they came for 4 days in October, and we spent some time with them, and we acted as their tour guides. And since we are surrounded on 3 sides by water, the chairman actually offered to be a captain for us and take them on a boat trip. So we took them down the Suwannee River, the Santa Fe River, and the Itchitucknee River. And we stopped at each spring along the way. We picked them up just south of Royal Springs.
North of Troy, north of Troy Springs.
Right, so we started at Troy Springs and continued on down south from there. We also took them to Suwannee Lake, the Brown Lantern, the Busy Bee, Spirit of the Suwannee Music Park, Suwannee Springs and the Bridge, Suwannee River State Park, the Gathering, the Dive Outpost, West Kyle's Peacock Springs State Park, and the 406. So the FAM tour is basically like a scouting mission for them to be able to start getting their creative thoughts going about what they could do for the video and the marketing campaign. And we'll tell you a little bit more about that in a minute. But then we had to start planning for this video. We had to work on a shot list, which consisted of setting film dates, narrowing down film locations, getting permission to film at each location, which is harder than you might think, acquiring props, finding models, discussing wardrobe, etc. We did a 2-part video shoot, so we did 2 days in February and 2 days in April. The 2 days in February were focused on underwater scenes. So we had underwater photographers, underwater videographers, certified cave divers, and safety divers, and that was in addition to your normal production crew. And just so you know, when we were shooting in February, it was 34 degrees. So keep that in mind when you see what we've done. The second part of the shoot was for 2 days in April, and that was so that we could film above ground shots when the leaves were back on the trees. So we're going to show you a behind-the-scenes video, just so you understand. The beginning of the video is showing part of that FAM tour that I was telling you about, and then it transitions into the film days. Hopefully this will give you a little bit of insight into all the work that goes into a project like this, and we're excited to show you.
We're having technical difficulties. Eric, I believe that was Eric Musgrove.
I think he's pointing fingers at you.
And like Carissa said, keep in mind, we're showing you from the very first time when they came here and we scouted. And this is all behind the scenes footage, okay? We just thought it'd be a little funny maybe, and so you could appreciate all the work we did. We'll show you the finished product in a few minutes. All right, let's see if you, hopefully you guys can hear this.
Whose idea was to do that in February?
Well, budgets and funding get in the way sometimes, so we have to do it when we have the money. So, but it was 34 degrees that morning when we were shooting at this Suwannee. So those shots of those people in the water, you could see the smoke, the fog kind of, lifting off the cold water. But that was a little bit of the behind the scenes. Did anybody see the dog? Did y'all notice the dog? Who can guess whose dog that was?
Chairman's.
We like to got thrown out of the park over the dog.
Apparently, there's a no dog rule in it's Suwannee State Park, but the chairman decided to bring Bo, and Bo was actually on the paddleboard going down the river. So it's all right. He pulled his chairman card out, and that didn't help a bit. But anyway, he was a great help to us. And I also wanted to shout out. The chairman helped us tremendously all along the way on this. I mean, he helped us on each phase, and I really appreciate it. He didn't have to do that, but he did. Means a lot. We couldn't have done it without him. He provided the boat, the paddle boards, the dog, all kinds of good stuff. So, how many boaters do we have in here? What size gas can do you carry on a boat? Anybody?
5 gallons.
Who said 5 gallons?
5 gallons.
Winter, okay. We didn't have any of those, but we had 5 1-gallons, okay, that we had to stop in Branford and gas up with. So, but he toted a gallon at a time, and we were able to continue on our way. So, but anyway, we've got some more to go, so I'll keep moving. I wanted to shout out, we got Rob. I always say it wrong. Boserman? Close enough. Rob was in the video. I don't know if y'all noticed Rob was in there. Many of you may know Rob. Rob is local. He's got a really great story to tell about his life and the things that he's done. And many years ago, I think Rob landed was it a Apache? What kind of helicopter was it? A Black Hawk helicopter at the school right here in Suwannee County. You guys remember that? Well, Rob knows a lot about Suwannee County. He's helped us out a lot. He was a part of this shoot. He volunteered. He hauled kayaks for us. He talked to the film crews and told them the spots they needed to be and what time of year. He actually went on numerous scouting trips for us on his own to give feedback to our team so we could then send it off to our video team. So there's a guy that just loves Suwannee County and stood up and helped us create some of the stuff we did today. So if you guys, you give Ron a shout out back there, please. So you speak if you want to speak, but he did a lot to help us. He really did. So anyway, this is going to be the first time that we've kind of showed the video. The chairman saw it at our TDC meeting the other day, so he has seen the video and the pictures that we're going to show you guys. Really, no one else has seen them, so hopefully that you like what we've done. And I think we're going to start with actual still pictures, understanding that these assets are stuff that we use. You guys probably won't ever see it because if you go to YouTube, you can find our stuff. But for the most part, when we market, we're not trying to get you to come to Suwannee County. You're already here, so we're sending it out all over the country. So when you go to the Weather Channel or you search for a pair of work boots and then all of a sudden a few days later an ad pops up on the side or over the top that says come here or come there, see, well, that we do the same thing. We just do it elsewhere. We don't do it here in Suwannee County. So we're going to start with a little slideshow here, and these are actually professionally, this was our underwater photographer, and these are shots we'll be creating ads with and using to market tourism here in Suwannee County. So if you want to go ahead and play it, it's just a small slideshow. Go ahead. Ma'am? Oh yeah, if I can, if you guys can see the diver here, this is Guy Bryant. Guy is also someone that helps us. He's a cave diver. He is really, I guess, world-renowned for the stuff that he's done. He's written books. Guy's helped us in a lot of different things, and so he was one of the stars of our show when we were down there filming at Peacock Springs. Again, he volunteered to help us and do that. Also, Jason's still back there, too. Before I forget, when we're shooting a lot of this stuff, we had to get Jason and his team to go down there and basically close the springs and the parks and keep everybody out so they wouldn't disturb our shots. He was more than willing to do that and partnered with us on this. In a minute, I'm going to tell you something else Guy did for us, and Jason helped us with this also. So, go ahead. And again, these are all Suwannee County folks. I don't know if you know this is down there, but. Like a postcard or a calendar? Whoops. We accidentally found her. So, y'all didn't believe that was here either, did you? And again, all of these are real pictures. They're not photoshopped. They're not. These are the real photographs that were taken. At 34-degree weather. I thought you were doing all this. You can do it. We mentioned Guy. I've already talked about Guy, so I do want to give him a shout out. Also Jason, but you know, it takes a lot of people to do this. It takes the commissioners, it takes the whole Suwannee team being on board to support us in what we're doing. It takes our marketing guys, it takes the production guys, the film crew. It takes a lot of people doing a lot of great things. But we were really impressed. And just so you know, those were like the top 25 that we picked that were going to be our first campaign. We've got pictures to last for days of Suwannee County that were a part of this shoot. We've got B-roll footage of all of these days and days and days of filming that we will be able to use to market with and do other things. So when I say, you know, that this was a shoot of what we're going to show you, this is just a small sample to show you what this year's marketing plan looks like. We'll grab other things that we've already captured to use to make different videos, grab different pictures. So go ahead, then. Chris is going to take over.
All right, we got it back up. Okay, so we mentioned Guy Bryant, that was one of the cave diving models that we had. He's a certified cave diver, but he's also a photographer. He's a great guy, no pun intended, and he's also a good friend of Suwannee County. So while we were shooting these film days, he was interested in taking pictures of some of our springs at nighttime. If you guys have seen on Facebook, sometimes there are these pictures of the glowing springs, the illuminated springs at nighttime. Those are his. So he asked if he could take pictures at Charles Springs, Royal Springs, and Little River Springs. And we said we would love to have that. We were very excited about it, so we contacted Jason Furry at Parks and Recreation, as those are all county parks, and we asked if he would be willing to let him in with his team at nighttime to do these pictures. And he sets up multiple cameras, and he has other people with him that will swim around with special lights in the springs, and he takes long exposure photos. He puts multiple pictures together into one, and it takes 4 hours of editing to create one picture. He owns all of these pictures, but he has graciously given us permission to use them in marketing Suwannee County. So we just included these pictures here because the conversation started in the video shoot. So we're going to show you what he did, just in case you haven't seen them already.
Yeah, and some of you, like she said, some of you may have seen them because they're beautiful pictures. But Guy, through our working with us on this project, led us to Guy being able to come in and do these pictures. Thank you, Jason. So if you guys can, these are the springs that he did, and we're starting with Charles. And this is a special technique that he uses to do the springs at night. So she's going to flip through them. That's Little River. Like a tropical island somewhere? And Royal. We just wanted to show you that was not originally part of our marketing plan, but when Guy started working with us and he showed an interest in lighting our springs, again, that's not some Photoshop pictures. It's a technique he uses whereby he goes down with divers and he puts light in the water and they swim around, and above my head, Chris understands it. But that is really what it looks like. When he puts the lights in the water and he takes those pictures. So we wanted to give a big shout out to Guy. He's given us permission to use these photos to market Suwannee County as well. Again, team members like him and Rob, I mean, it's just amazing the folks that you have right here that are willing to help. So anyway, we're taking up a lot of time. We're going to keep moving. Go ahead.
Okay. So now for the moment you've all been waiting for. We're going to show you the first video of this campaign, but first we want to explain the concept. So we just want to showcase the authentic beauty of the region to the visitors who might not expect it. So this is Suwannee County. No filters needed. It's actually this beautiful. From the gemstone-colored springs to the beautiful parks dotting the countryside, Suwannee shines best without any filters.
And again, as she said, the campaign itself was to show that you can come here, and I always say breathe, but you can find solace. You can go find a place to spend with your family. It's get away from the crowds. So that was the concept behind this video, was we are marketing to people that want to kind of come find that special place to spend time. So, Eric. If you do need to hear this because there's actual.
The soul of Suwannee isn't just a feeling. It's embodied in nature. It's found in unfiltered perfection, where beauty abounds in its most simplistic form. Experience it in the abundance of towering trees and lush flora that awakens the quieted peace of your body. Touch it in the gemstone-colored springs that tingle your senses and restores vitality. Explore it in flourishing underwater caves that spark curiosity and a sense of wonder. Absorb it in the fresh air and starry nights that enlighten your mind with clarity. There's no fluff, no crowds, and no lines. Just you and beautiful, unfiltered nature, with maybe a few surprises along the way. Come discover the life you never knew you were missing in Suwannee County, Florida. Learn more at www.visitsuwannee.com.
So that's only 8 months worth of work whenever we're not doing economic development. So at the end, you saw the graffiti bridge. That's a real, what would you call it, painting that Carissa located an artist that painted that on the bridge. It's on the bridge. It really was there. She painted it. So we thought that was a cool way to end, because I can tell you the day we were there shooting, there had to be 100 people on that bridge from all over the country. You cannot believe the amount of people that come to that bridge. So anyway, and I wanted to also mention our mermaid. She was Miss Mermaid USA. So she is a real mermaid, by the way. So she visits here sometimes. So, but we appreciate everybody's support. We had a lot to kind of show you guys because we've been real busy. So this is the reveal. So these are the tools that we will be using to market Suwannee County. Thanks for your patience. Thanks for your support, every one of you, for what we do. Carissa, quite honestly, is the brains behind all of it.
So we have other versions of this video depending on what platform we're going to use it on. This video or something like it will be on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and on our website. If you would like to see it again or share it with somebody, that video will be available to the public on YouTube tomorrow, and you can just search for Visit Suwannee County and see it there. Even though the Tourist Development Office is funded by the bed tax, we sincerely appreciate the support of the commissioners, and we appreciate you letting us present today.
Well, wait a minute before you all go, because I spent a lot of time with them doing this. I really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. Thank y'all. And anybody that had anything to do with it, it was a lot of fun, a lot of work. And appreciate all you commissioners and supporting them with this. And just a great project, and enjoyed it. And thank y'all.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank y'all. Good job.
Good job.
Is that last time for you tonight, Jimmy?
I don't know.
Mr. Mike McWaters, I think you're up next.
I bet he's wishing he went before me.
Thank you, Jimmy.
We got a clock now.
I hate to have to follow.
Knucklehead. Oh, that's all. The red light will come on. Hit it one more. There you
All
go.
right, there we go. Yeah, I hate to have to follow that. I want to thank the sheriff and Mr. Baker. I think that's the only two people in the room that Jimmy hasn't thanked since he started his presentation. I want to thank them. We have been going around, and I think Greg and I need to have a kind of a sideshow. Everywhere I go, he's there too. So I think this is the second or third time we've been at a commission meeting and done this. He's done his presentation, I've done mine. But I just wanted to come by tonight and give you a little update on our fiber to the home project. June 6th, 2022 is when we announced we were starting this project, and here we are a year later. And our goal was to provide fiber to the home access to every consumer of Suwannee Valley Electric. And I've kind of told the story. It's kind of like the duck. You look at him on top of the water, it looks like he's really not doing a whole lot, but his feet are really getting it. That's kind of what we've been doing. And so we are doing a lot, although sometimes you may not see the benefit of it. It's a massive project, and we certainly couldn't be where we are today if it wasn't for your support. We certainly appreciate the commission for supporting us. Mr. Scott, Mr. Norris, Shannon has been a great help to all of us in Commissioner Land with our LTPT committee that he's been leading up. So I want to thank them for that. So this process that we've been going through is kind of a 5-step process, and some of you have heard me say this before, but we started off designing our fiber network. Then we had to go through make-ready engineering, which is where we had to go out and look at our electric system, determine whether or not it could handle the fiber cable being placed on it. Then we had to go through make-ready construction, so we had to make the changements that the engineering team found. And then we had to cut additional trees in some cases, and then we had to install the fiber. So those are 5 steps, and we're doing that over 4 different substations in phase 1, 14 feeders. So that's 70 steps we have got to go through in order to get this first phase done. And I'm glad to report that we've got 48 of those 70 done. So we're about 69% done on the first phase. And so we're making a lot of progress, and we've got over 100 employees now working on our fiber project. We've got almost 200 miles of fiber built. We've replaced 895 poles. We've added 743 poles. And we've made 2,211 power arrangements where we had to make changes on the power poles to get ready for the fiber. So we are making a lot of progress. And actually, we've already started phase 2, the design process. So we hope within the next 60 days we can actually start releasing a lighting schedule. I know that's the one thing everybody wants to know. Well, when am I going to get service at my house? That's the reason I avoid Publix and Walmart and any other public place. I just let my wife tell me about it when she's out and about. But we hope within the next 60 days we can start releasing that schedule, and we can get the first feeder turned up and get ready to go. And as we start opening those feeders, I'll give you an example. We have 508 customers on the first feeder that we're going to light. We think it's going to take us about 5 weeks to get the number of people that we hope sign up for that. So about 2 to 3 weeks before we get to that number, we'll open up the second feeder, and then we'll just start a cascading effect all the way through the system as we go through. So that's kind of where we are. And remarkably well, our team has done a great job. There hasn't been a whole lot of unforeseen things. We've had a couple of issues with some permits and some incumbent contracts that we're worked through, but other than that, we really haven't had a lot of snags, and just continue to make progress, and hopefully we'll be able to, like I said, within the next 60 days, announce some lighting schedules. So that's what I had. I just want to ask if you guys had any questions that I'll try to answer very vaguely.
Anybody have any questions?
Mr. McWaters, do you anticipate lighting your first one by the end of the year?
Oh, yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Good deal.
I would say 90 days at the latest.
Good deal.
That's in McAlpin.
No, it's I'm the chairman of the LTPT. No, I don't know where it's at, honestly.
I do, but I prefer not to say it.
You can say it.
I think Commissioner Hale knows where it's at. I'll put it down.
Mike, we appreciate what Suwannee Valley does. You're a good partner with Suwannee County, and we appreciate it, and appreciate all y'all have done and what you are doing. And I don't have anything further. It's just a great job. And
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Perkins.
Mr. McWaters, we do appreciate your work that you're doing down at the conferences and at the NACO with FACTS. Some of the people that come up, that's other co-ops, and they're coming online. But what I appreciate about it, what you said at one of the meetings, you said that you were very adamant about it. You said you want to leave no one behind. Now I'm hearing those same ones echoing what you have said. So we think we're setting that precedent out there to get out and do that, and to get everyone online. So we appreciate that.
Well, thank you. It's, I think as I end up close to the end of my career, I think, we were started in 1937, and we kind of changed rural America. And the way people lived on the farm. And I think this is an opportunity for us to do that for the next generation. Somebody's going to look back 30, 40, 50 years from now and say, wow, that really changed the way we live, because now we have fiber internet access to every home farm in Suwannee County and the surrounding counties. So thank you very much.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Commissioner Lee.
I just want to echo what Commissioner Perkins just said, because all 5 of us were down at that rural summit when,
Right.
And the public may not know this, but Mr. McWaters was on a panel in a room. I don't know, there were several hundred people in that room, and there were some big players in there too that really don't care as much. Pretty much said they didn't care about the rural.
Right.
It costs too much money for them to spend the money to get one home, fiber that might be a mile to that house, and they just weren't interested in that because of the return on their investment. That they couldn't validate that. But Mr. McWaters sat up there on a panel with some of those guys,
Called them out.
He did.
and was very passionate about it, and
Yeah.
said that his co-op and himself just didn't think that was fair to the family and to the student or to the child that lived in that home that might have been a half a mile down that dead-end dirt road. And so, again, echoing what Commissioner Perkins had said, I appreciate that. I appreciate your passion. I appreciate your board's passion and the financial commitment that Suwannee Valley and your board and your co-op is making for that child a half a mile down dead-end dirt road.
Right.
So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mike.
Moving along to staff items, Mr. Bailey.
Me and Mike, I think, have heard each other's presentation more than anybody else in the whole region, so I'm waiting for the day that he said, I'm sick, can you tell him for me? Good evening. Just update on a number of the projects that we're undertaking for the county. Weideman and Carter down in Branford is back in construction. Contractor's actively pursuing that work now. 139th, we've got our permit exemption from the Water Management District. Plans are at the DOT for review right now. We had received some comments. We responded to those and sent it back. We should receive authorization pretty soon. Everything else is ready. If the board's agreeable, we'd like to bid that as soon as we get that approval back from the department. I don't know if the board needs to approve that bid, or can we just go out to bid?
We need to approve them to go out to bid.
So, I mean, we're expecting that imminent. If y'all want to go ahead and approve it, subject to their approval, we can, as soon as it comes out, then we can certainly get with the administrator's office and get that out on the street.
I make a motion.
Well, before we go that far, Mr. Attorney, can we do that without having it on the agenda?
You can. There's no law that says it has to be on the agenda. However, in the absence of a budget impact or anything else, I leave it to the discretion. Your question was, can you do it? The answer is yes, you can.
Thank you.
It's just a bid.
It's just to go out to bid. So, motion by Commissioner Hale.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Land. All in favor, aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. There you go.
We got a couple of projects like that, and then it's just a request of bids. Okay. 76th, we're under design on that. We've been coordinating with Suwannee Valley Electric and FPL. They both have utility poles along that corridor. So we're working with them as far as their utilities go. Also working with the administrator's office near Marybell Cemetery. It's pretty tight in there. We've got the cemetery fence is pretty close to the roadway in there. We've got some other, I won't call them encroachments, but it's narrow in the corridor. We've got to work with pretty bad in that area. So we're trying to figure out the best way to get the additional widening that we need in there. So we're discussing that with Mr. Scott and his staff on ideas to make that happen. So we're working through that. The Express, we received the permit for this project. These also are at DOT's review. We expect to receive authorization to advertise that pretty soon, so we'd like to go out to bid on that if it's the board's wishes.
This is on which one, Mr. Bailey?
Express in Branford.
Express in Branford. I have a motion to go out to bid on Express Street in Branford.
I make a motion.
Motion by Commissioner Hale.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Land. All in favor, aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous.
Greenway Trail, we received comments from DOT. We coordinated with Mr. Furrick and his staff, responded back to the department for that, and we're waiting for their concurrence and authorization to advertise as well. As soon as we get that, we'd like to go out to bid on that.
Again, that's which one for the record?
The Greenway Trail, that's the trail that
The
runs
trail
from the
for
county
Branford.
line up past Branford.
So I have a motion to go out to bid on the Greenway Trail.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Perkins.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Land. All in favor, aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion unanimous.
153rd Road, we're still on hold due to the right-of-way concern that was raised previously, so we're still waiting on that.
I think our county attorney is working on those, but we're working through those because we had the land acquisition manager or personnel, whatever we're working on, so.
We just, as soon as we know, then we can actively get that back moving.
Okay.
I anticipate that'll be moving forward once we get through our next agenda item.
Okay. 184th, right-of-way and legal descriptions, we've sent that to the county for review, so that's in process there.
Yeehaw.
68th Terrace. Shift gears a little bit here. 68 Terrace is a road that runs east and west out in front of Walmart. It's an economic development corridor for the county and the city of Live Oak. I don't tell everybody, but 129 North is kind of your commercial development corridor. It's turned into that. We kind of saw that happening whenever Publix moved out there. You're going to see a lot more pressure out there. Right now, we have some entities looking to locate in that area. Our firm on the private side is working with a number of landowners out there. And also, we've been working with Mr. Norris's office on some developments in that area. Previously, we were instructed to do a set of construction plans that basically went in and just resurfaced that road. The county took bids. The bid was awarded to Anderson Columbia at the time. Mr. Norris kind of raised a red flag, said, hey, let's put a pause on that. The board and everyone agreed to do that. We provided 3 options for the board to consider. When you look at the future development of that, right now you see it transitioning to a more urban area than what it has in the past. It's been a rural area out there. You're going to see, we've got hotels that are out there now. You're going to see more of those. You're going to see more restaurants. You're going to see more of that type of development out there. You're going to see an increase in pedestrian traffic out there. Right now, you have, your facilities are limited to 129. This being an east-west corridor, it does connect to the old railroad corridor that was part of the mine. From our standpoint, and when you look at plans in that area, from an overall standpoint, we see the potential for a future north-south roadway along that corridor, and you have a built-in underpass or an overpass at I-10. A lot of communities do not have. That could be utilized to carry that road north and tie back into 129 or another road north of the interstate. So there's a lot of potential in that area. 68 Terrace would go from 129 westward and connect with that corridor as well. So I kind of laying the groundwork for 3 options we provided as far as cost estimates for rebuilding that road. Option 1 would construct curb and gutter and would allow for the construction of sidewalks from 129 westward. And you got, right now, you do have an existing hotels on either side at 129 there. So it would connect to the sidewalks out at 129 as well. It would be a 3-lane section through there to allow turning movements and 2 through movements out there as well. We estimate that option to have a lifespan as far as the pavement structure and the lane widths and all that of over 20 years. So it would carry you for a long time. It would carry the development in that area and the adjacent properties that are looking to develop in that area as well. Albeit it is the most expensive option, and we've estimated that at $1.3 to $1.5 million for the work on that. Option 2 is similar but a little bit different. Option 1 had curb and gutter and would have an enclosed drainage system, which would consist of inlets and pipes. Option 2 would just basically be valley gutter up near 129. That's kind of the most constrained area we have. When we get past the hotels, it opens up to vacant land, but right there we've got hotels on either side of the road, and we have parking right there. All of these options will require some right-of-way, but none of these will impact the parking of any of the existing facilities there. So it would just be green space that we would be occupying with the construction of this. But option 2 would be a valley gutter section, no piping. We would just basically flow the water, stormwater, along the edge of the roadway until we get past the hotels, and then we'd open up into a ditch section there. It has a little bit less of a lifespan. We're estimating somewhere 15 years plus, but it does result in a savings to the county for construction. Estimated cost is about $1 million for that. Option 3 is just widening and resurfacing, similar to what the construction was already anticipated, doing minimal work, constructing swales and all to handle the water runoff. It would give us an additional lane in there, but it would keep that rural section that you see out there today. We would not have provisions for pedestrians in the future, anything like that. In our mind, that would be the minimum that we could get by with. Estimated cost of that is about $900,000. So those are three options we've given the board. I believe this was funded solely by the board originally. So we wanted to give you, at least something to kind of compare and see where the board wanted to go with that road project there. The county did take bids. They did award a bid at the time for a lot less work than what's being anticipated now. Our opinion is you would need to rebid that project. Now, obviously, we're going to defer to the county attorney, but we've made potentially making such a significant change that we think that should be rebid.
Mr. Scott, before we get further with that, do you know what we had originally budgeted for that road?
I cannot remember off the top of my head. $350,000.
And are you looking for a choice tonight?
It don't have to be tonight, but that project is on hold until we have a decision.
You've given us three options, but you're the engineer. What for the money? Where do you think the best money's spent here?
I hate to say it, but option one is the best one because I look at it from a standpoint of where we're going to be at 20 years from now. I've seen the growth like City had at US 90 and I-75, and I've seen a ton of mistakes out there because none of this was done.
Just having to go back and dig up sidewalks and stuff to put in drainage because so much asphalt or concrete is now there. And yeah.
Correct.
Well, that's kind of where I was going with this because as much as it seems like it is right now, 10 or 15 years from now, it may be a lot more than that. So,
no, definitely.
If you want to do it right now and spend the money, is my opinion.
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Hale.
Just to be clear there, we're talking about in the vicinity. I know you guys ain't gonna like me saying this, but the increase of commercial businesses, future hotels, the increase in pedestrian traffic is the area you're talking about that this board moved the fire station from to provide those services to that area or adjacent to. Is that what we're talking about? It's in the same area. I know what you're talking about, next to going back to the old Badcock building.
Yes.
I'm just saying, I wanted to make the point, the same point that the board previous to this board seen that development coming, seen exactly what you're talking about, and that's why that property was, or that area was located. So, still got my chip on my shoulder about it, but he's backing up everything that I was speaking to at the last meeting.
But as I recall, we didn't do away with the fire station. We're just choosing to move the fire station.
Way west was some of the conversation I heard, so.
But nevertheless, we didn't decide to do away with it.
Correct.
And
so I don't see where
that area.
I don't see where the comparison is here on what we're doing here versus that fire station.
And since
the growth he's talking about, and then trying to do it right and do it right the first time.
I get that, but
I'm sorry, the growth of it and do it right the first time. That's the only point I'm trying to make.
And since then, our chief and the City of Live Oak chief worked out an automatic aid agreement.
Not since then. They were making that deal before, and don't try to pull nothing over the public's eye. We all know.
It wasn't signed until, what, 2021, Chief, 2021?
The automatic agreement was signed in
2020, 2021?
No, it wasn't signed until
2022. So we did not have an automatic aid agreement in place prior to the purchase of the fire station. It is in place now. Correct. Thank you.
For fire only.
Because they don't have EMS.
Right.
Nevertheless.
Okay.
I understand
But
I understand where you're coming from, Mr. Hale. I do. I really do. I'd be probably hot too. So I'm not saying it's not, but I think it's better suited somewhere else, in my opinion.
But to comment on what he just spoke to, I would rather see us do it right than have to circle back to it.
Thank you. So how do we handle this if we only budgeted $350,000? We're talking about $1,350,000 roughly.
There's,
So that's about $1 million more than what we got budgeted currently for it.
I think there's room in the budget from other line items we could pull from. I'd like to confirm that. If we can get consensus, we can come back later with confirming the dollars are there. But
If I may.
we don't have to prove that tonight, but consensus would be helpful moving forward.
The Economic Development Office is working with some clients out there. I think there is a possibility to get a CDBG Economic Development grant to cover some of those costs. It may not cover all of it, but it may cover a substantial portion of that.
Well, I see Mr. Baker that holds the checkbooks coming up here, so he might have something to say about this.
If it's all right, whenever you're doing this, it's where you need to be able to take and know where the money is coming from. And you have to be able to tell us which line item to be able to pull it from. So it may take Greg a day or two in order
It needs to
get
be
with Nina and
specific.
Keith. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Berry, for that.
Mr. Chairman, I was thumbing through our budget here, and I agree with Mr. Scott. I think we need to pump the brakes just for 2 weeks and let staff and the powers that be come through here and try to figure out if we can carve out $1 million from somewhere else, or do we have to wait until next budget cycle to do that? And then also, we could have some conversations with Mr. Grissom about a potential grant.
Mr. Bailey, you talked about a grant, I believe, the other day when I was with you.
There's a possibility, because I know we've got some interest from potential developments out there that this would qualify for CDBG economic development, because it's infrastructure, it's in public rights of way, and you could get a substantial. Now, it requires participation by those developers. They have to do some activities. The way that program works is based on the number of jobs that are being created, you can get a certain amount of money through that program. That's the carrot. I guess the stick part of it is what they have to do is they have to then document those jobs for 12 months after the grant to show that they indeed fulfilled that promise. If that's done, turn the paperwork in, you're done, they're done, and everybody goes their merry way.
How much money are we talking about there, roughly? Do you have any idea?
It's the way the grant works is you can get 35,000 jobs for each job, up $35,000 for each job that they create. So if they had 10 jobs, you get 350,000. If they had 20, it'd be 700.
So for tonight, can we just get consensus on which option here that the board wants to agree to so we can move forward with that part of it?
In light of what Mr. Baker and what Mr. Scott said, I would just let come see what your money situation is, and then make your decision once you got all the rest of the information. We need to get this out to you so you knew what you were looking at, they know what they're looking at, and then let's make the decision once you got everything together in front of you.
Okay.
Now you know what you're facing. That would be my suggestion.
Understood. Thank you.
Okay?
Yes, sir.
Any other questions on that?
Yes,
All right. Back to the fire station. We are finishing up the building design, because our understanding was that we're going to put it somewhere in that area, location to be determined. We've ceased on the site work, but the building design is being completed, because we can put that anywhere the county decides to place it. The CV building, we're completing that. We met with county staff. the county has requested, or at least some of the staff has requested, we had a warming kitchen in there. They're asking to make it a full-blown kitchen or a canning kitchen. That will change some of the cost. Obviously, when you go from a warming kitchen to a full-scale kitchen, some fire protection items get thrown in the mix, and that adds some cost to the project. So we're kind of working through that to see, if the budget's going to be able to stand that and where we'll go to with that. The County Road 137 utility extension south, we're working on submitting that to DEP for the water main extension and preparing that for permitting to get that working. The Caddis potable water main extension, we have received our DEP water main extension. We've gotten all the revisions for FGA for crossing the main spur line that's out there. We're working on, we're finalizing the bid packages. We could be ready to bid that pretty quick. The only thing I think is outstanding right now is, as we've talked about, the improvements out there. That line will come from the county's water plant across vacant property to 169th. We go down 169th to where Project Waves driveway will be, roadway, and then we have a utility easement across their property to get to the interstate. We talked about the improvements needed for 169th. We need to put this utility away from any future road improvements that's needed out there. What we need right now, at least for that piece that parallels 169th, is 40 feet. We need 40 feet of additional right-of-way so that we can put the lines far enough away that we don't have to come back and relocate them when 169th is improved. 169th is going to be improved. There's no way around that.
And there's a lot of utilities along 169, both sides. Soon and everything else, and there's a lot of things.
Commissioner Hill.
And what side were you proposing, for the east or west or?
West. We'll hit 169th, come down it, and then we'll cross under 169th at Project Waves. That property is Rexon. So
The existing utilities that are there now,
There's some comms, there's 3 or 4 comms, but there's electrics, comms, there's about 4 different utilities.
I guess what I'm getting at is, do those have to be moved if you widen that road, or?
Yes.
Okay.
That gas
But
line?
they're already there. I can't, that's just part of it.
The gas isn't there yet.
Isn't there yet?
No.
It's got to come from further north.
But
We'll stay on the backside.
as we're laying a new line, we want to be far enough away that we don't have to come back and do that later.
2 new ones.
We're working on the planning aspect of it. We kind of know what we're looking at for 169th. We got an idea of how far back we'll need to come as far as a future overpass over the railroad to get rid of those congestion strangleholds we got out there. And we'll need 40 feet out there to accommodate future road, plus keeping these utilities far enough away for the future.
How many landowners for the 40
Just
feet?
one.
Just that, what he mentioned.
All we're doing is handling the piece from when we get to 169th as we parallel 169.
Is there some action we need to take there, or
No.
with the attorney?
We'll work with the county attorney to do that. I guess mainly we want consensus that the board's okay with us moving forward in that fashion.
That's a different plan than obviously was there before. So just making sure you guys know that. And we're looking towards 169 for the widening. So originally we were directed to keep it all within the right of way. So it's a slight change from the appointee.
So is all commissioners on board with that? Everybody understand what we're talking about?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Got it.
We'll provide those documents to the county attorney so he can contact, or with a new process I think we're going to have, right?
Thank you.
As I briefly mentioned, we're working on our information gathering as far as our data goes on the master plans out there and those projections. We've requested a joint meeting with DOT to go over their plans and how all our activities out there will kind of interrelate and get feedback from DOT, from the transportation side of things, and also working on our traffic analysis for that. So I believe that's all I have on my list, unless y'all have something or questions for us.
Mr. Chairman, while Mr. Bailey's here, we need to, on those projects from DOT projects that you agreed to go out to bid on, while we're still waiting on information or the okay from DOT, you make sure that all the motions are concurrent or contingent on DOT giving their approval.
On the ones we already approved? Or?
Right. I should have called you earlier.
So do I need to go back and redo them all?
You could probably just do them as one motion for all the ones. We need to make sure the DOT, and we wouldn't move forward anyway until DOT, because they're writing the check. So
Well, our presentation was it was subject to that approval.
if that reflects in the minutes that way, that'd be fine.
Sir?
If that reflects in the minutes that way, that'd be fine.
Okay. Mr. Musgrove, is that how it will reflect in the minutes? Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Bailey, I just want to appreciate you coming. It's helpful. We hadn't had this in a long time, so appreciate you coming and updating us all the time. That's really helpful.
From our standpoint, we like doing this. We do this for other counties, and I find it very helpful that we can give you the information, and it gives you the opportunity to ask questions firsthand, and in that way you can, when the constituents talk to you, you know what's going on as well.
Very good.
Thank you.
Love it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Item number 13, county attorney item, enact a resolution giving the county administrator authority to negotiate with landowners to move forward with county projects. Mr. Morrison.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As I brought up at the workshop last time, on the 20th, there were issues with how land interests were gained by the county in order to move forward with various county projects. I had a draft resolution, which was frankly more complicated than it needed to be to move forward with getting a county land agent or land agents to go forward with purchasing interests in real property to move forward with county projects in lieu of eminent domain. So after hearing the feedback from the board, I've got this draft resolution, which incorporates basically what Commissioner Land had pointed out at the workshop. And essentially what it does is it moves the authority to the process, as was spoken to during our last presentation, when we have a county project, would be that the project would still, the people administering the project would contact me, let me know they're ready to move forward with the project, with the legals, what interest is needed, that sort of thing. I would work with Mr. Scott in putting together a packet for each landowner that's going to be affected in terms of the description, the interest that we need to acquire, et cetera. And then it would become Mr. Scott's responsibility to contact the landowner to acquire the interest as required by the project. I know Mr. Scott isn't lacking for things to do, so it authorizes him to appoint to hire a land acquisition agent to be his designated agent. That person would report directly to Mr. Scott in terms of the spending authority to get that land interest as may be required by the project. The draft resolution here says he could spend up to $15,000. The intent of this, and as made clear in the resolution, is that $15,000 authorization overseen by the county administrator would lower or raise with the spending authority of the county administrator. Essentially, it just is giving Mr. Scott the authority to oversee that process, and he could sign off on any purchases of interests in real property to move forward with the project in lieu of eminent domain. And if a settlement is reached, which would require more than the $15,000, we would need to come before the board, and you guys would need to authorize that particular transaction. So, but essentially, here's the effect of what it'll do, and the reason for it is previously the county attorney was trying to negotiate with no authority, which led to just the standstill that would happen. This way, we're going to have a process in the chute where the county administrator or his designee, the hired county land acquisition agent, is going to contact the landowners, find out what it will take to get that interest, if it can be done. We'll be able to quickly strike a deal. Then they'll send it to me. I'll do the paperwork. That'll go through. It won't even cross y'all's desk again, and we'll have that land interest. And because we have somebody who's responsible for negotiating, we'll also find out if there's someone who objects and is not willing to cooperate with the project. Well, that's when more stringent methods would be necessary under our eminent domain power. But we're not left in that limbo of trying to figure out who is what where, and that'll just streamline everything. So essentially what this resolution does is it gives the county administrator the authority to be the land acquisition agent on behalf of the county and authorizes him to hire one in lieu of him actually engaging in those negotiations.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Perkins.
just for clarity, on item number 4, giving that authority to the county administrator to work on that behalf, is that, can we do that with not having the ordinance to give him the authority to do so?
That's what this is. So by enacting this resolution, you're giving him that authority.
Okay.
In the absence of this, in the absence of a resolution that does it, that was where we were at before. So
Okay,
this is what gives him the authority to do
Okay,
this.
because I was just wondering, because I know we had the other ordinances that is only on do goods and services that we're giving that authority to.
Right, and so this is just to track, in terms of the spending limit, it's to track that spending limit. So that way, it would be weird if the spending limits weren't the same. So.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
No, sir.
Seeing none, do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Land.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Mobley. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. The moment we've all been waiting for. Item number 14, discuss with possible board action the determination of rates for a solid waste assessment program for fiscal year 23-24. Mr. Scott.
As we discussed in our workshop, currently the general revenue covers $430,000 to pick up the extra cost on solid waste. We need to have you make a decision tonight on if you want to keep the rate the same or make increases, just to narrow that gap. So I'll be glad to answer any questions that I might be able to answer.
So the way I'm reading this, at the current rate for this year, $225 leaves us with $149,688 surplus.
Chad.
So it looks like.
And then if we stay at 225, the upcoming fiscal year, we would be in the hole $530,000.
Correct.
And that's in consideration of new households, or is this just running off last year's numbers on households?
It's last year's numbers, right, Chad? Yes.
Well, don't everybody speak at one time.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Perkins.
And I'm glad you did say what you said about last year's numbers. So it's not correct, because we have had an increase in the number of houses, I think, and also with the the tax base, I think Mr. Gamble's back there can tell us with our tax base now, I think we're going to have an increase this year with the number of houses. Am I right?
I'm not sure the number of houses.
With the number, with the tax base we'll be getting. And that'll get us at what point there? Dollar figure.
But that's not households, right? You're talking about overall ad valorem tax.
So about 2.2 mil, you saying? Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Hale.
and everything Mr. Perkins just said, I agree with, and also we just don't know if we're able to get out of that contract or not have to use them as well or as much. Maybe we can find a cheaper source.
Right. But it looks like we'll have to use them for the next 3 years, if I interpreted what.
A little bit, I think.
Right.
As needed, I would.
We are preparing the budget to start looking at transitioning and other ways of doing business, but we have to get prepared for 3 years from now when we get there. We've got a couple funding sources for compactors. We can start getting the game plan together. I know that our staff met with Locklear staff last week, or week before, my weeks run together, to talk about some scenarios. We'll be circling back around looking at going forward on when do we buy compactors? Do we buy them now? Do we escrow that money into another source or another area to set aside the money so we can have money to buy them when we need them? If we can buy some now to experiment a little bit and see how that works. And I say experiment, that's probably a poor term, but we need to work on a new game plan moving forward. The current contract we have is going to choke us each year more.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Land.
I want to be clear that I understood the county attorney on our last meeting, and I believe it was that, in fact, our county attorney does not believe there's a way to divert any of the waste stream without consequences, potential consequences.
The way I would phrase it, Commissioner Land, is that if the commission will recall, that's why I brought out the contract, we went through that language, is paragraph 8D, which said that we can divert our waste stream at any point prior up, and it gave the example of recycling, what have you. And so if we were going to try to get out of the contract, what we would have to do is call giving the waste to an alternative carrier or something other than a waste stream. And that would be an action which, if we did, I would expect immediate litigation, and I would not view our chances of success. I would think it's more likely than not we would not be successful in that. But if you're asking me what is going to happen, I can't give you that answer.
Fair enough. So I believe the consensus is that more than likely we need to be preparing for what's at the end of the contract, but more than likely, unless we want to face potential litigation, we will be bound by the contract. Is that an accurate statement?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So where I'm at on the garbage stuff, you guys, I'll just jump out there and be the first one to share my opinion, is I talked to Chad a little bit on number of units. So he is right. So and I've talked to several other staff, elected officials. So the 15,620, that's how many we have as of the disbursement date. That's how much we've collected on that many units. In fact, in 2022, the certified number of units was 17,132. So there's a difference there. So, But with that being said, we do have, the county has had some long-term agreements in place with multiple Advent Christian Village. They have their own garbage plan, so although those folks get an assessment, some of those, there's some adjustments made to the number of units because they don't really participate in our garbage program. They have their own garbage program, and they're billed by the tons that they bring to us, as are several other entities in the county, as are some mobile home parks that have large number of units. So each tenant doesn't pay it. They pay it as they bring it to us. So where I'm going with that is that number of reduced from the certified number, the 17,132, which will be higher this year to account for the new homes, new mobile homes. That number is going to be closer to 17,300 on just some preliminary estimates. But if you still back out 800, 900 of the adjustments for other types of services that they have, I mean, I come up with roughly about 1,100 units difference. And where I'm going with that is those assessments have been levied, but as of Chad's, all fairness to him, as of his calculations, we have not collected those, meaning the folks haven't paid, they haven't paid them. So my only problem with using the 15,620 assessment units is I think it's unfair that we hold the folks accountable that are paying their assessments timely, and we're going to use that number. I'd rather us use the higher number because at some point if they sell the property, they come up with the funds, the assessments have been levied, we should get the money. We don't know when. It could be next year, it could be next week. There were over 200 tax certificates sold yesterday, according to the tax collector's office. Not all of those have assessments on them. Some of them are vacant land, but there are surely some structures. We don't know the breakdown. So my point is I think it's unfair to use to set the assessment and look at the formula based on the folks that paid it on time, because all you're doing there is making the number look like it needs to be higher for the folks that paid when they were supposed to.
So you're talking about a $250,000 swing.
Well, I did the math. So at 1,126 units, 225, that's $253,000. That's $250,000. So our shortfall, it may be, it's 530 looking at this with the balance carried forward, which we still have a quarter to go. That number might be $2,000, $3,000, $5,000 more or less, but roughly 150. So the shortfall, it might be 530 next year. Those folks that have been levied those assessments may not pay them next year. We may get half of that $250,000. We may get none of it. We may get all of it. We don't really know, but at some point we should get it. I think the responsibility falls on the backs of our county to stomach the ones that didn't pay on time and leverage those lack of funds out of our general revenue versus all of it. So where I'm going with that is if you look at the 1126 and the 225, our potential shortfall is only 276,000, 276 to say 300 on a conservative number shortfall at the 225 rate. Now, those numbers are going to change. There's an index in there. There's a fuel surcharge in there in the contract, I believe. I hadn't read that in a while, but is it safe to say that we could sustain 225 for the next year or the next 3 years? No. That shortfall will continue to get larger. But for next year, we could potentially stomach no increase. We could stomach a minimal increase of $10. I mean, I think the three of us on this side were on the board when we had to do the really big jump, and that was absolutely painful. I don't want to do that again, but I don't want to jump. I don't want to jump to the 245. I'll just say it. I don't want to jump any more over 225 than we absolutely have to, because I don't think our shortfall is $500,000.
Well, if we put $500,000 from general revenue last year in this, and we got a $150,000 carryover. So you would take that 150 from that 500 is what I'm thinking. But then you got an increase in what's coming, what you got to send to the landfill. So I'm like you. I I don't know where that number's gonna wind up. I'd like to wait and see what it looks like one more time before we raise it again. Because I just think there's some variables there that will probably play out over the next 12 months that you may see a difference there than what you have. Or what you're projecting anyway. So.
I mean, and there again, like I say, there are some unknown variables there that we don't know. I mean, I think kudos to the board and previous board that we implemented the sticker. I know we all get fussed about the stickers a lot, but that sticker has saved this county several $100,000 in reducing the tonnage that we're having to pay. You know, so I know it's a pain for all of us because we all get the calls, but the stickers, without the stickers, that number would be closer to $1 million shortfall. So I'd ask the residents to be mindful when they're fussing about their sticker, like it's saving us money, so we don't have to raise that assessment anymore because we were paying for waste that was not ours. It was coming in from other counties. It was coming in from the city. I mean, we were paying for stuff that our folks shouldn't have been paying for. So keep that in mind when you're talking about the sticker and you're yelling at us about it.
Well, and there's some other options there, and I know we ain't talked about it, and I'll throw it out there. I'm not scared. I've been fussed at before, but I mean, at some point it comes to we got garbage collection sites that are not very far apart. In my mind, that it may come down to shutting some of those down. You might have to drive a little further to throw your garbage away, but do you want to pay for more? It's like we talked about with the rest of it. How much service do you want to pay for? And so if closing some of those sites down helps balance that versus going up on the assessment, maybe that's something that needs to be looked at as well.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I think.
But I do know this: at the end of the next one, in my mind, if we're still in this same scenario, there's going to have to be a change made. We can't keep funding it out of general revenue.
No, I agree.
Bo Hancock, Wiggins Road. Just to offer y'all an alternative. Y'all are going to sit up and argue about this one, and you got the fire still coming up. Why don't you just raise the millage, go to max, go to 10, because you're going to fund any of the shortfalls from general revenue now anyway. Well, go ahead, go to 10 mills. You're currently at 9, going to generate. Last year, I think a mill generated $1.4 million. That'll take care of the shortfall. You don't have to raise either one. There's your out.
That's a terrible idea.
That's a terrible out.
Terrible
right there, I'll
idea.
go ahead and tell you.
I don't like that idea.
Okay. Previous boards didn't want to raise the assessment. It was done last year. And all of y'all sat up there with, well, except for the two new ones, sat up there with red faces and no, we don't want to do this, but we ain't got any choice. If previous boards, instead of hitting everybody with a larger sum, if you incrementally raise it, fix it so that it pays for itself, which is the way the assessment was designed. It's never operated that way, unfortunately. Now, if you're going to raise the assessment, figure out how much it's going to get to keep it balanced, if you will. Either that or go to 10 mills.
We're trying to very well.
I mean, which way are you going to make the people mad?
You're going to make them mad
either way.
Yeah.
You hadn't told me anything yet that wasn't going to make them mad. I'm still waiting for
I was waiting on that
rabbit out
ball
there.
answer that was going to
No,
fix it.
you're going to pay it one way or
anybody.
the other. Y'all are going to fund this thing if you don't raise the assessments.
Well, I
One way or
kind of
the other.
disagree. I kind of disagree with Mr. Hancock. Yeah, we might have to, but we may not have to. There's some things that are in works here right now that
That's fine.
may adjust this.
But I just want y'all to at least think, y'all are funding this
I
one way
understand
or
that.
the other. You're taking money out of the general fund to fund the shortfalls.
You're right.
That money could be used to
For
chip
leasing.
seal
We
those
know.
roads.
We know.
We know
It would go
We know.
a long way to paying for 68th Terrace.
Well, which is
You've got to balance these things. I'm not telling y'all anything new.
It would just, but we, Mr. if you don't mind,
Commissioner
we also know, Mr. Bo, you know this, that everyone's tight right now. I mean, everything is, nothing's going down.
That ain't going to
everything's going
change
up.
for a while.
I get it,
But if it was done on an incremental basis, just to at least close the gap some, but that was not done. If you go up $10, that'll help. Won't solve the problem. What are you going to do next year or the year after? It'll be a different board, maybe.
I was hoping you'd have it figured out by then.
Oh, heck no. Y'all are going to quit seeing me. But I just want to point that out. The people, the taxpayers, are going to be paying one way or the other. Your task is to figure out not how not piss somebody off, excuse me. You will. No matter what you do, you're going to make somebody or upset somebody. But you cannot run this government taking from one pocket to pay something that should be paid for from another pocket. That's just the point I wanted to make.
Thank you, sir. Well
Mr.
taken.
Bo.
So I've said my piece on it.
I've said a lot.
Hadn't heard from two of them on the other end.
Hey, left side.
Sir?
I said, hey, left
What's
side
your-
down there.
what's your thought?
What y'all thinking about?
Well, Mr.
okay?
Chairman, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Well, Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Perkins.
well, I know it is a tough task, and I know this is our first rodeo here doing this raise of the millage rate or trying to fund this assessment for solid waste and for fire. But I know that elderly and veteran or disabled people, I know that they're having a hard time trying to pay their taxes and all that, and they're getting a break there. But then when you go in and put this assessment on them, that may be hard for some of them to pay that assessment. I feel their pain, and I know we can't satisfy everybody. I know we got to do something. And I know we want to pull out a general fund to be able to fund everything, but we do have general fund, and then we do have the money that be coming from, our new tax, which would be more this year than was last year. So I think there's maybe some help there. Maybe do some rollback or something there to be able to pull some funds to take care of this. But one question I want to ask this is, and Mr. Baker might have to help me out on this. There were some funds that came in, and I know he should be aware of it. You also, you may know as well. I think it was like $700,000 that came in, Mr. Baker. Then we get some unforeseen money that came in, like $700,000, $750, something along that.
I had to get with Nina and Keith, and I can let you know.
Yeah, I didn't get with her today to find out, and I was just wondering if that funds could buy us over for at least this year anyway. If we could use that fund for that, that's what I was going to ask if you knew about it. If we could use that fund, that could be maybe a Band-Aid for this year to be able to take care of the fire assessment and the garbage.
Tell me if you know what the funds were called.
I'm not sure of what the name was called, but there
Got
was.
a green bar. If you
Sir?
can think, I have a green bar back here. If you can think of what it's called, I can see if I can find it. But
Okay. I was going to call Nina, but I didn't. When I got a chance to call her off, she was already gone.
okay, if you like, I can check on that tomorrow, and I can give you a call and let you know exactly what it is.
Okay. I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but I feel.
Mr.
Yeah.
Baker, we budget off 95%, right?
Yes.
When do
That's
we
right.
know what that difference is between the 95 and what should be 100%?
There's a lot of that is where you'll know whenever you get the collection from sharing. But it's where that we're required by law to take and budget the 95, because it's where that you can have situations like we had a couple years ago. You can have a terrorism event, you can have a downturn in the economy, and each of those things is where that they can play real havoc. And it's where that you can have a hurricane. You may get reimbursed, but it's where sometimes with the hurricanes and anything like that is where it takes years. I mean, it's not something that's going to be turned around, and that's the exact reason that those funds are budgeted at 95. You can bring it in lower than that, but you can't supersede the 95. You have to budget at the 95 because there's just a lot of uncertainties out there. So it's where that's what those additional funds are for, in case that you would have some kind of, and it may be something like we had here in 2012 whenever we had Tropical Storm Debbie just come and sit right on top of Suwannee County. It may not be a statewide issue. It may not be a nationwide issue. It may just be a Suwannee County issue. And whenever it happens, you need to make sure that you're ready for it.
I thought we about had it last week or week before.
It was coming.
Man, it was coming pretty quick.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Baker.
And Mr. Perkins, I'll find out tomorrow, and I
Thank you, sir.
back.
Regardless,
Bless
we either
you.
got
Bless
to
you.
raise the rate or we're going to eat it out of general revenue. It's the board's choice.
Mr. Chairman, I'm not making this suggestion. I'm merely making an observation for you other guys to make a suggestion. But Mr. Hancock has a point. I know we all know the point, and we've all thought about the point. I mean, nobody's going to raise the millage rate. I don't think that'll happen. If you went up $10, your shortfall, I suspect, is going to be south of $100,000. I mean, do I want to go up on taxes? Because assessment's a tax. I mean, call it what it is.
You're saying that short, you made that off
Yeah,
next year?
Yes, if you went, I looked at that 245 number at the top there, and I took $10 and timed it by, I forget what I used. 17,296 is our suspected certified number of units. I think I just used 16.5 or something, but I mean, the cost of doing business in all of our businesses has went up substantially. I mean, I can't buy tires or insurance or fuel, or I can't buy anything cheaper this year than what I could buy it for last year. I think 90% of the public understands that. I mean, you can't go to the store, a buggy of groceries now, you get half for twice as much as what it was 2-3 years ago. So am I a proponent for increasing taxes? Absolutely not. But we all know if you stay the same forever, you're going to sink. So, I mean, and I don't want to sit here and kick the can as, I don't want to be accused of kicking the can. So if we did do an incremental, I mean, I could stomach 10. I don't like anything, but I mean, 10 cuts the number down, and I would hope that the public would understand a $10. I think we got some folks in the audience here. I mean, I'm welcome to their opinions. I don't.
And to be clear, what you're talking to is a one-time a year $10 increase.
No, I'm just talking about this year.
That's what I'm talking about. I just don't want, the last time folks thought that was monthly.
No,
or
just
something like that.
just from going from 225 to 235
Just trying to make that
would
clear.
give us next fiscal year about $100,000 shortfall, maybe more, maybe less.
Or maybe less.
There's
We
some
don't know
variables
what's
there
gonna
that are going to play out that are going to affect that shortfall up or down. But I mean, I would ask the public this year, like, I mean, what do y'all think? I don't know everything. I mean, I'm just throwing some stuff and ideas out there. You can't stay at 225 forever.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Perkins.
Commissioner Lane, is that for both? You talking about both?
No, I was just talking about
We're
garbage.
just talking about garbage.
Just
Okay.
garbage.
Okay.
Yeah, we can get to fire next item.
Yes,
I
sir,
was just
Mr. Hannigan, name and address, please.
Just since you invited everybody.
Yeah.
Wayne Hannigan, 11883 93rd Road. First of all, I'm a little confused because the numbers look skewed to me. When I look at the first column and it says this year, you're showing 149 positive, but you're not showing that 500 that came out of the general fund.
It's included.
It's included
It's
in
part
it.
of that total revenue.
Budget.
So
That's
it's-
what went
so
in
it's
was that.
I'm just saying, for me, it's misleading because I think, oh, okay, that number's fine, and then we're 150 in the good.
That's with the 500.
That's with the 500.
Yeah.
Right, yes, sir.
Just looking at that form, I don't see that.
So if you take that 500 out, then we're 350 to the bad.
You're 350
short.
Okay. And you're going to have a whole lot more homes this year than you had last year?
No, I wouldn't say a whole lot. 160-ish.
That's kind of what my number.
About 160s. Yeah. Now, how many of those will pay their assessment on time?
Well, if they're new, they're probably going to pay.
They all knew they should because they paid it when they paid their building permit or part
Right.
of it. So.
So that's going to help some. Yes, that's going to increase the tonnage, but also that number will help some. Not greatly, but some. I'm okay with going up $10, but I'm not okay with going up 20, 30, whatever, because you're going to have the same outrage that you had last year. People are just going to go, this is crazy, everything keeps going up, and now the county is trying to kill me.
I agree.
So that's just my opinion. And I have 2 homes. I don't use one of them. So I get assessed double for everything.
We appreciate it. Thanks very much.
Can you buy a few more?
And that's what it is. It's a contribution. So you
Got
get
any
double
more you
of
wanna
everything. I only use one, but I get charged for double, but that's okay. That's just my thought. I mean, I know you're going to struggle with this no matter what you do, but if you got the money in the general fund, you found it somewhere this year, why can't you find it again next year? So that does offset it, so that people don't feel like they're getting hit every year.
Well, what's scary to me is we've been making changes to this whole garbage thing. I can tell you, I've been educated on garbage since I've been a commissioner. But we've been making changes on this with the garbage stickers, cutting overtime. There's a multitude of things that's been going on here behind the scenes, and it's still scary to sit here and look and see there's still a $530,000 deficit.
Still going the wrong way.
Yeah.
No, 350, not 5. See, you guys like to use that bigger number. It's not right.
Well, I'm just looking at what's red in front of me. That's all I can do.
Yeah. I think the other numbers are a little skewed too because of that, because I see an $800,000 increase in operating cost.
Well, that's because the rate they get rid of the garbage went up.
That's on that contract,
That's
how
a
it goes
tiered-
up every
it's
year.
tiered, it goes up.
Yeah.
That much?
Yeah.
Okay.
And last year, like, I don't think it changed the last 2 years. I think it stayed the same, Mr. Hampton.
But this
And then
year it
those
goes
next
up.
3,
This year it jumped
They
big.
start, sharply increasing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And your
just-
freight could go up some more too, so it don't just stop there.
Yeah, no, I understand. Like I said, nothing's going down. I understand that.
But there's some other things that are being worked on here that's not being said and can't be said right now, but there's other things that I think could curb that rate. And it's going to take 2 or 3 years. It's not going to be an instant fix. It's going to be an overtime fix. And it's not going to be a fix, but it's going to be hopefully curbed to some
Right.
extent. Or at least keep it in check.
Okay. Just from the public standpoint, when you see that number on the left and it shows it black, that tells me we're in the good. I'm not seeing that 500,000. It should show it there somewhere.
Well, I can tell you, my business insurance this year was up 22% this year alone.
I understand it. I'm just not sure everybody's going to understand it. Can I make one more comment, just different from this? I didn't hear about the Catalyst Site Master Plan. What's going on with that?
Mr. Bailey spoke about it. He's still working on it.
Okay. And just being an old construction guy, I think you're paying way too much for your buildings, and primarily because they're being designed for a wish list instead of having a construction manager or a design build firm that sits there and says, no, we can't do that because it's going to throw the budget out. So you're struggling with budgets on buildings because nobody's saying no, honestly. And nobody's saying, this is the budget, and we got to build to the budget, not build to what everybody in the world wants. Just a comment, just something that I'm seeing. I saw the last plan of the EOC building, and I'm like, wow, that's pretty nice. That's going to go way over budget. But just a comment. Thank you. I appreciate. I know you guys struggle with this every year, and it's not easy, but you got to do what you got to do.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anybody else wishing to speak on this before we decide to do something? What's the pleasure of the board? Well, this is when it's nice to be chairman. You can't make a motion or a second.
You've been lucky not to have to do that here lately.
Commissioner Lance, share that again, please, sir.
What's that?
Let's share your thoughts again.
I already shared them once.
All right, y'all quit looking at your shoelaces and let's do something.
Here, as painful as it is to say this, I mean, I think, I hope that the public would understand a $10 increase over a 20 or a 30, and I hope that they would understand the 500,000 we used last year to try to keep it at 225. I mean, that number is going to continue to grow. If we stay at 225 this year, it's going to be 800,000. Next year, it's going to be 1.5 million. Next year, I mean, like, you can't sustain that. Hopefully, a $10 increase is a whole heck of a lot less painful than, I believe it was like a.
What was the number? Do you remember? No, it was more than that.
It was more than that. Yeah, we went from like 130 to 225.
Yeah, it was painful.
So that was painful. But our contract with Waste Management doubled. I mean, they went from I think like $18 a ton to 30. I mean, and the transportation rate doubled. I mean, everything doubled. So we were paying. Our contract expired, and everything doubled. But that's in the past. We got that behind us. I would be okay with a $10 increase and nothing more.
Are you making a motion to that fact?
I was just telling my opinion. I was kind of hoping somebody else would make the motion. I could sit over here and look at my show.
I can't, so I'm just.
I tell you what.
I'll make the motion.
I would move to increase it by $10.
I second it.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
I just said a little, y'all, that was quick. I'm just like maybe what Mr. Hannigan said, and I think one of you two said, what is it really going to look like? I know we don't have a clue, but I mean, we've mentioned so many things. There's things going on, negotiations, compactors, increasing households.
There's options.
There's a lot
available
of things
too.
out there. I mean, we're just kind of, I know we got to do something, because again, it caught up with us last time, or maybe we don't. I don't know.
And you're right, we absolutely do. But the one thing that the public needs to understand is there's other options, but they come at an expense.
Yes.
It's compactors will definitely save us money. Somebody's got to buy them. They're $43,000 a piece.
Or if you close down some collection sites.
Or if you close down some collection sites, they got to drive another 4 miles.
I mean, talk about that.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I mean, there's options, but everything comes with a pain.
And we're in that other contract for 3 years, so.
Well, I guess I just keep going back to that, and I don't disagree with our attorney, but like the gentleman, my mind slipped me, the guy that we hired to give us a.
Locklear.
Locklear, thank you. He read that thing same way I did, that, yeah, we can use them, I think, but does it say we have to use them every trip?
No, he said that, y'all correct me if I'm wrong, he said that he suspected if we diverted any of our stream that there would be penalties from that.
I don't know if he's.
That's the way I interpret it.
I guarantee you there will be litigation if you do it.
1 run, 2 runs, 3 runs, any runs.
Yeah.
In that contract, it didn't say we had to take 1 run to him or 1,000.
Well, I can
But did you
almost
say towards the
assure
end of
you.
it, like the last year, you might could do something, and they wouldn't
that's
probably
because
come after you on the last year.
So we could maybe try to buy it out as the year, as we get closer to the end. That number won't be as big.
Renegotiate. I mean, things
we signed
changed
it.
on their end. I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. I just hate to do it, guys. I just hate to do it. I know it's a sticky situation. And so,
I got a motion by Commissioner Land for $10 more.
I'll
Second it by Commissioner Mobley. All in favor, aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign.
well, I'd oppose it.
Huh?
I'm going to oppose it.
Are you really?
I think so.
Man.
I just think that we just don't know. I'm so confused about it.
Explain to me what you
Wait a
don't
minute,
know.
wait a minute. Let me finish this, please. First. We had a motion and a second, a vote of 4-1 with Commissioner Hale voting no. Motion carries.
All right. Now, explain to me what it is that you're confused about that I wish you would have explained to me 5 minutes ago.
I wish, because I wish I would have him call those folks and talk to them. And let's just see where we're at with this company.
We can still do that.
Yeah.
I mean,
And that's all I was going to say before
I
we
don't
actually
think
took the vote.
$10 is going to kill anybody.
It's definitely not going to.
It's not going to get us to where we need to be, but it's not going to keep us going backwards. So
I agree
think
with that,
that's a
too.
win-win for everybody. And
We got a Locklear lady here. Isn't that right? I believe Locklear did say if we divert the stream tomorrow, there would, he highly suspected penalties.
He did.
That's what I heard. So, Mr. Morrison?
Here's
Here's
the
this,
here's the
any rate?
answer in terms of what will and won't happen. And both speaking with the individual from Locklear, and following up, and the reason I brought that contract language is so y'all could see it for yourselves.
Yeah.
So, candidly speaking, the only way we could get out of it is by creating a waste stream to go to an alternate waste recycle. You know, we have to call it something else.
Something else.
But let's be honest. It's a waste stream to a third party to get rid of our trash, and Waste Management, with whom we have our contract, will call us on that. And that's the litigation. Now, in terms of trying to renegotiate the contract, that's what I brought up before, is we get, as Commissioner Hale brought up, and I certainly don't mind making phone calls to see, like, hey, do you want to come down on your rate to ask? In the absence of additional leverage, I would suspect no. As we get closer to the end of the contract, especially as we're looking towards alternate providers, in which case Waste Management would get zero of our dollars come 3.5 years from now, then our negotiation leverage goes up. And so that's the situation we're in. But I'm not telling you all guys. But I don't disagree with anything you said, Commissioner Hale. I certainly don't mind calling them and asking. But that we're 2 years too late on trying to get that number down is where I suspect that's going to go.
And I'm not disagreeing, but just like we talked about, or Mr. Haneke was trying to figure out why it increases dramatically. I can't wrap my head around that, why it increases to those. I think you said 18. I think it went from 32 to 64 or something.
It went from like 32 to 57.
Yeah, there we go.
A total. That included freight and the
That's
ton.
right.
32 is just what it costs to
32
dump
is
the
just
garbage.
just the tonnage on the
The
garbage.
tip.
But when you add freight in it, it went from 30 something to $57 a ton, including freight.
Which is ludicrous, but
Which is on a sliding scale there.
yeah.
And just also to point out too, and I know we're kind of done with the topic, but the contract also, I mean, it really did militate against even simple cost-saving measures, if you'll recall. Like, we have collection centers on the north side of the county. It would save us money to go just take them straight to the dump. We can't do that under the terms of the contract. So, you know, a lot of this is controlled by that. We're just 2 years too late.
Understood. Moving along. Item number 15, discuss with possible board action the termination of rates for the fire protection assessment program for fiscal year 23-24. Mr. Scott.
Do you say terminate or you say yes?
I like them.
Well, I don't know what I said at this point, but whatever.
So
What?
I think you did say.
Termination? I didn't say terminate.
I think you
Okay,
did.
here, I'll help y'all. Discuss with possible board action the determination of rates for the fire protection assessment program for fiscal year 23-24. Are you happy now? Mr. Scott.
So bottom line is our current rate is 120, and we had the presentation by the chief last meeting on needs and desires, and everything costs money. So I'll let y'all talk about if you got any questions for the chief, but you know, We're not where the projections are for Neighbors and Gibbons, but quite frankly, I think at some point we got to figure out what level of service we want and stay within those for all of our services, not just fire, but quite frankly, all of us. So, but I'll be quiet and let y'all speak.
I did a lot of homework on the, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead,
I did a lot of
Mr. Lane.
homework on the last one. I'm hoping that I can hear from one of you other four on some homework on that other one. Crickets.
No?
I'll just escalate you.
Yeah. You gonna pull me out there?
We're trying to leave it where it's at, on my opinion. See what happens later on, you know?
I'm good with that.
Where's the chief at?
He's right there. Chief Hand?
Sir?
What is your pleasure looking at these numbers here?
The numbers are slightly different than the ones that we came up with because Chad had some more accurate figures than we had when we started determining the shortfalls. But the simple fact is it's underfunded for current operating expenses. It's not allowing for anything with any kind of equipment replacement or anything else. It's only operating expenses. If you remember back 2 years ago when we made the adjustment, we hadn't touched it in 8 years. We had to make you guys had to make such a large adjustment to the solid waste assessment. We only made a $20 adjustment, and at that point, Neighbors and Giblin had projected it for full funding. Now, that was a different budget than what the current budget is because it did have those apparatus lines in there, equipment lines in there, and it also was a 50-50 shift of salaries, which would free up about $1.6 million out of the general fund that's currently being paid for out of it because we're only 27% of our salaries come out of the fire budget. It hasn't changed since last week. You know, $5 increase generates about $112,000 a year. When you look at the new households, if there's, you know, at $120, 400 households generate about $84,000. So if we have those in projected numbers, we may get, that still doesn't cover that we have somewhere between, a $350 and $400 and some $1,000 deficit in just covering our expenses. If the budget doesn't change, that's not allowing for if we don't make any adjustments next year with inflation, with, every year just salaries with annual increases, go up roughly 3% on average. So, now that's not as big of a hit on the fire side because we're only paying 20% of our salaries out of the fire budget. But I still stand right where we were. I think, if you look at that paperwork that Chad put together, myself and him and Nina sat down and put that spreadsheet together for the fire side. It puts us at about with a $25 increase to $145. That puts us at about $180,000 to the good. That's projecting on the numbers that we currently have. I know this current year, what Nina told me, she expects to get in with what she has left to be posted. These numbers on this sheet are a little high on revenue because we're looking at about 1.74 of actual assessment revenue, and I think this is showing about 1.8 something. So you're only talking $20,000, $30,000 one way or the other of what it can go up or go down, but it's it's still a $25 increase to break, it'll put us a little to the good, but give us some breathing room for the next year or two to not have to do any kind of adjustment unless we, increase services and have to do something to help pay for that. But
Well, that's where I was going to go with this. If we do nothing, we leave it at $120, what do you have to do to make it fit?
that contingency, that is the CARES money that we would love to be using for capital improvements and not using that money, free money for capital expenditures that improves the county's,
So you're using it to make budget then?
That's just covering budget. We lost 200 and basically with what I was under budget, how much I reduced the budget this coming year and how much the contingency reduced. We used a little over $200,000 of that contingency from last year to what we have this coming year.
And you have what left in there now?
There's
415, I think.
537?
No, that's
Fire?
That's currently. Next year's projected budget, it's going to be down to 414.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Glenn.
a couple things. You said there's no replacement costs in here, but I look at replacement costs as it is being here, and I'm not saying that you're wrong, but I look at it a little bit differently. There may not be a built-in line item for replacement costs, but if you're leasing ambulances and you're in year 1 of 4 or 3 of 4 or 4 of 4, that is your replacement cost. So we're not going to take those out in year 5. We're just going to lease another ambulance. So there is
those aren't in this side though.
I look at fire and EMS as one.
Okay.
One hand feeds the other feeds the other. I mean,
right.
27%. Yes, they're different. One hand feeds the other one, other hand from time to time with contingency feeds that one back. So
Right.
at the end of the day, they're fiscally one
Correct.
department.
Yes.
So I look at replacement costs and I see those leases in there and different stuff. So there is some money into the budget that if we don't take it out, will be there when the last year of the lease payment is paid if we choose to stay in there and lease some more equipment. So
Correct.
there is some money being spent on equipment that will stop that could be used for other equipment when that term is up. And then I look at, I'm looking at EMS, and you had $603,000 built into your budget, and as of I got this green bar on Monday from finance, you've only used 79 grand. There's still 523 built into that. So there's a $500,000, and you may have plans to use that in we got 1 quarter left. We got 3 months.
That actually, when we get to budget workshops, we'll be rolling over because those 2 trucks will not be completed until November.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll be spending the money in the next budget. That rolls over into next budget year.
I got you. So there's a $500,000 there that will roll over, which is already spoken for. You budgeted $300 for diesel fuel. You've only spent $170. You got $130 left to get you through 3 months. I think that's plenty. You got over $500,000 in your fire contingency. Yes, you did give us some of that because I remember we had some shortfalls and you were very gracious and gave us some of that. On your repairs and maintenance, you budgeted $135,000. You've only used 66. You got 68 left and only 3 months to go. And I really think that getting out of the transfers, a lot of that's went down. So it wasn't that you over budgeted, but getting out of the non-emergency transfers, you've seen a large decrease in maintenance and repairs because lack of running up and down the road. So I think you've made some changes for the betterment throughout this budget cycle that the numbers aren't going to be quite as bad as it might look on paper, because I think you're going to have some budgeted money that doesn't get spent.
Right.
Not that you tried to hide anything, but there's some changes. Diesel fuels went down. You got out non-emergency transfers. You're not buying as much of it. You're not fixing as much stuff because you're not running up and down the road. So,
And in next year's budget cycle, those lines you're speaking of are reduced immensely because of getting out of the transfers and fuel prices. When we budgeted last year, we had no clue what they were going to do at that time frame. So those
Right.
in the new, and when we get to the budget workshops, those have been reduced. And I'm it's you guys' decision. Like I've told you guys before, I'm showing you strictly on the fire side and the assessment. If we want the assessment to fund the fire budget as it currently sits, not changing it anything, we're at a deficit and we're rapidly eating up money that we could be using for a capital. And that contingency was the leftover for, if you remember at last year's budget cycle, we had 1.9 million and some change in the fire station line. You guys dropped it back to 1.5, and that's the only reason the contingency was at 500 and something thousand. It was at 91,000 before
Put it
that.
in contingency.
Right. So it rolled into contingency. We ate up 200,000 of that contingency on part of the shortfalls of this year's budget. So if we want to supplement the fire fund out of the general fund, then we don't need to make an assessment adjustment. But if we want the fire fund to pay for itself, it's simple math on revenue coming in versus expenses going out. I've reduced my lines this year in this coming budget. I do it every year. If I can go down, I go down. I don't go up unless I have to go up. Some items in this budget were reduced. Fuel, and on the EMS side, they're reduced way more than the fire side because fire's not going to change much. We do what we do. I did lower it because fuel prices didn't do this year what we thought it was going to do. I really tried to project my, so we are doing what we can to be as responsible as we can with it, but it's a simple amount of revenue coming in. When you look at that sheet, for this coming year, we've got total assessment revenue, and with other revenue coming in, we've got $2.5 million coming in. We got total operating expenses at 2.8 going out. That's $320,000. Like I said, if we don't fund it, we have to supplement it from general fund.
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Land.
Chief, we just got done talking about garbage and all the things that we're trying to do to reduce that expense. Is there anything that you could cut or recalculate or redo to try to lower those expenses, just like we're doing on the garbage, try to come up with something, a different alternative of way of doing it? Is there anything?
I mean, I might could be able to go through that budget and cut out $30,000. But most of all of this is it would be cutting stuff like training. It would, safety. Those are the things that we can cut. Everything else is an electric bill, fuel. It's cost of doing business and salaries. That's our big hit.
Mr. Chairman.
One thing I do want to bring up is, when I did a survey of surrounding counties and what they're paying, what their assessments are. Stuck my papers in the wrong folder. Hold on.
While he's looking for that, on this side of things, other than the garbage that stinks, obviously, I know you guys know this, but we are talking someone's health, someone's property, being able to respond. Like he said, I ain't for raising taxes on anything, or assessments on anything, but this one's a little bit different to me than trash.
Well, and I agree 100%. And I had something I was going to bring it up in public comment later because we got so long on staff reports, and I didn't. It's my apologies. I didn't say to Chairman I had something tonight. But to go back to the fire assessment and not get off task until there, we're currently at 120. Columbia County has five two-man stations and 2 3-man stations, so they're running 7 stations with actually, because they don't do EMS, we're running 2 more personnel per day than they run at their full staffing. But it's because we have, multiple ambulances running out of some stations. But their assessment's $270. Dixie County only has 3 paid stations. They're at 125. And chief said that barely funds their, their budget. Madison County has 2 paid stations. I talked to the chief. He said that they're currently at $78, but they're severely underfunded. He's trying to get the county to go to $150 to fully fund them. Gilchrist County with 2 paid stations is at $135. Hamilton County and Lafayette County, Hamilton's got 1 paid station. They fund it out of general fund with no assessment. Lafayette County's all volunteer with no assessment. So that just gives you an idea. We're operating a fire EMS service on, a little over $1.5 million, and we're doing fire and EMS for what Columbia County is doing just fire for.
Gilchrist was how many, Mr. Chief Hand? Gilchrist County was how many stations?
2 stations.
With how many people?
They run, I think they run 2
per?
Like 6 per shift, something like that.
So, is that for both stations?
Between,
6
I
per
think,
shift?
yeah, for the whole thing, I believe. Yeah, I don't think that counts their EMS because they have an EMS
So
MSTU.
that's 12 total people is what you're telling me.
Right. I'm not 100% on those numbers, but I know that they have an MSTU for their EMS.
And Dixie's at what? How many?
Dixie, I don't know their number of personnel, but they have 3 paid stations.
3. And we have how many?
We have 5 paid stations currently.
And what was Dixie's, 135?
Dixie's at 125, and they just raised that to 125 last year. Chief Brown said it needs to be raised, but they just raised it last year, and he didn't ask for any increases this year.
Mr. Chairman, how many of these, does Lafayette run their own ambulance service?
Lafayette runs their own ambulance service,
They got
yes.
one
They have
ambulance.
1 ambulance that covers the whole county.
Madison?
Madison is fire rescue.
Okay, so they got it. Hamilton?
Hamilton,
They have it.
they're separate fire EMS, but they do have EMS.
Gilchrist?
Gilchrist is combined,
Yes, okay. And then Dixie?
and Dixie is combined.
Combined.
When we talked earlier, Eddie, or Chief Han, I'm sorry, you said we can move money from EMS to fire. We can't move money from fire to EMS.
Correct.
You got $1.5 million sitting in EMS contingency.
Yes.
What's that money earmarked for?
Normally, every time we go to a state meeting, we hear about Medicare possibly changing their funding level and how much we're going to get from EMS runs. So we try to keep some contingency in there to cover any revenue shortfalls. But typically with the contingency, that's how I'm funding the ambulances, the higher ticket items that we don't have lines in the budget to fund it. I know that we have the lease item, the lease lines. The problem is, and I think that I've never been a big fan of leases because a lot of times the equipment's almost completely wore out by the time you get done paying for it. And ours aren't true leases, they're just financing. So we're not turning them back in like we do the graders and the dump trucks and everything and getting a buyback on them, we're just financing. There is no lease program for an ambulance. I looked during COVID and everybody we talked to said they won't lease an ambulance because they're wore out at the end of the term. So the contingency in there is there for those capital purchases to try, to keep our fleet rolling. I really feel like getting out of transfers, after this coming budget year, we need to re-chassis 2 more trucks because we're still behind from the COVID years. I really feel like after that happens, we'll be able to drop back to 1 truck a year and still stay on a good rotation for being able to replace them as they get, mileage on them. Like I said, right now, we're still running trucks with 300,000 miles on them in primary service, with someone in the back that could be dying.
What's the re-chassis cost?
It's almost as much as a new ambulance.
What was the re-chassis?
Well, Re-chassis prices it's ridiculous. When I got quotes this year, re-chassis are going to cost us more than we paid for the last 2 new ones because of cost increase.
Wow.
We're looking, the cost of, it's $240,000 to re-chassis one now. And like I said, it's just, everything's going up. It costs a lot to do business. I'm doing everything I can to save every dollar. You ask my guys, they get mad at me all the time because they want something. I was like, we don't have it in the budget. When we can budget it, we'll get it. But I'm really doing everything I can to save every dollar I can. I underspent both budgets this year with our projections, trying to save every dime I can. And like I told all of you guys at the workshop, I'm not in favor of going up a dime on the fire assessment if we're not going to provide more services other than it takes to cover our cost of doing whatever level of service we're at right now. And this is what it costs us to do business right now. There's nothing padded in there of anything. Like I said, I could go through and reduce some lines maybe, and as long as nothing happens this year, we could maybe drop 20,000 out of this, across, 20 to 50,000 out of the entire $5 million budget. But I just, I hate to see us using money that we got through grant money to cover cost of doing business instead of using it to improve our county resources with that free money instead of just covering cost.
I'd love to hear from the public. You can speak to it.
So you're saying at 125, you'd be a 269 in the hole?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Land.
back to our solid waste thing, number of units, I don't think because we use the 15,420 on this calculation, I think that what we will find is that those same folks that didn't pay their solid waste assessment probably didn't pay their fire either. So that number, I think there will be some difference in what was actually levied versus what was actually dispersed. So yeah, we don't get the revenue, but at some point we will, and it'll be unrealized income, I guess, at some point. I don't know what government calls it, but that's what we call it, private sector. But yeah, or back into a contingency. So I think as those tax deeds are sold and bought or whatever, that there's still that 14,000 or 15,420, but which I'm a little confused.
It's not much there, though.
Yeah, well, it could be up to 750 units, but why would? And I know there's a reason for this, but why would the fire units be 15,420? There's a reason for that, and the solid waste is 15,620. Is there instances where there's a structure that's levied a solid waste, but not a fire?
Is it on types of
What would that
property
be?
and stuff like that?
I'm asking.
Well, that number came from Chad, so I don't know the answer to that. Chad, do you know the answer to that?
Is there a reason why the fire assessment number of units assessed is 15,000? I think there is a reason. I want you to tell me why. 15,420, but yet on solid waste we use 15,620. That's 200 units difference to the exact. Is there assessment levied on something that has?
So you're looking at the projected for the new current year?
I'm looking at both of them, all of them.
Because in the first column, they both have the 15,420. I went ahead and added in permits that I know that we will be getting the new year.
For solid waste? Or
Yes, that was current. That was 200.
Okay, that's.
But Eddie did not want. He wanted to base it off of what we know we have right now.
I got you.
So that's what the difference is.
So if that
That's
extra,
$24,000. That's only $24,000.
I'm just trying to figure out the difference.
Okay, and I didn't remember what that difference is. I didn't even know they were different. Normally, like I was telling Chad, when I sit down with Nina and we're trying to project what revenue is going to be for the current year, she has what we're right at the end of the year and what's coming in. she'll take what we've currently got and what she still has to post that has been sent over. And we know we're going to be a little bit off, a little bit, but it's going to be real close. This is, you know, I'm trying to work on conservative enough projections that we can cover the budget. If we're right on the exact number, I mean, that'd be great if we know that's exactly, but if we're 500 homes short, then we're going to be have a shortfall on covering the budget. And like I said, when in the workshop, this is trying to plan out to where this will last for a year or two, not just today, covering today's deficit, because next year it's going to grow. And if we do 400 homes a year, like I said, if we do 400 homes a year, that's only going to generate about $80,000. So.
Mr. Chairman. Chad, do you have anything else to add?
Are you holding something back? Okay. All right, fellas, we kicked this all around. What are we going to do here?
I'm here to work with you guys. I'll work within whatever which way you want to go. I'll work within it. That's my job. So I'm just, like I said, I just present you the facts of where we're at right now today.
About it left. I'm going to call them out.
Mr. Chairman, you entertain a motion now?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I'm entertaining anything like going home.
I do want to hear some discussion from that end as well, if you guys would put your input in. And the reason why I asked for that, Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
The reason why I asked for that is, like I said, I mean, this ain't trash. This is, you know, saving homes and lives and taking care of our community. But it's also buckling our belt and pulling it tight and doing the best we can.
One more thing. You were saying the 50-50 split on the payroll. I'm sorry. The 50-50 split on the payroll. What does that mean? Explain that to me.
Currently, we pay 27% of the salaries out of the fire budget. It gets sent back into as revenue for the EMS side. It's all paid out of general revenue, then fire reimburses at the end of the year, 27%. The number that Neighbors in Giblin came up with 2 years ago at 230 was, they don't understand why that salary was ever split away from 50-50. It should be 50 out of fire, 50 out of EMS, according to them. It's not a problem that you do it the way we're doing it, but if you're truly doing it the right way, they said it should be 50-50. If we went to 230 at that time, it would have shifted the salaries to 50-50, which would free up about $1.6 million out of the general fund side that the fire assessment would then cover the 50% of the salaries.
So I'm trying to wrap my head around this. If we went to a 50-50 split, that's going to increase your fire budget?
Yes.
So you'd need more money at that point?
Correct. But it frees it up over on this side. It's basically just, instead of paying for it with general revenue, you're paying for it with assessment money.
So you're just shifting the burden to the assessment from the general revenue.
Instead of the general fund.
But, Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Lane,
and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the reason that the 27% was set up long time ago, way before any of us were on the board, was because the percentage of your EMS calls was significantly higher than the true fire calls.
That goes into the formula of everything and the way that they come up with by
so
call level.
that wasn't a number.
But according to GSG and Neighbors in Giblin, that was a decision that the board made at the time.
That's
it
right.
Wasn't anything that they recommended. They recommended a 50-50 split. And I think it was done to keep the assessment much lower than where it should have been at the time.
so if you went to a 50-50 split right now, what would that cost? How much more would that raise your budget on fire? I know you weren't prepared for this.
No, but I can give you that
I'm just
figure.
curious.
Just a second.
Just some round numbers.
I don't have the one sheet that I need.
While he's looking for that, Mr. Chairman, on the EMS, and I can stop if I don't want to say it without him paying attention, but
I'm listening.
on the EMS budget, I mean, I say we, because we agreed to the budget, budgeted 3.6, almost $3.7 million on EMS, and currently there's 1.2. I did an average. This was pretty much through the end of June, which is the end of the quarter. He's been averaging about 830,000 using that number per quarter. Well, if that rings true for the fourth quarter, he'd still have 361 left over in salaries.
In EMS or fire?
In EMS.
Correct. I have 5 open positions that have been pretty much rolling along. I get a couple filled, so we're
fill a couple, lose a couple.
But we're under budget on total salaries, but we're over on overtime because we're.
I was going there next.
Right, because we're understaffed. If we have somebody take off, I don't have anybody to fill that hole. Somebody has to work to keep minimum staffing or shut a truck down. So what we're doing is we're going to be over on overtime, but we're going to cover the overage on overtime by being under on regular salaries. If we were fully staffed, the overtime would be much lower, and the regular staffing would be all the way at the at the budgeted amount because it doesn't change. And then the casual, there's leftover casual money there because we, for whatever reason, most of our part-timers just quit working. They're getting burned out working their job because everybody's in a staffing shortage. People are getting mandatory left and right at their jobs. They're not wanting to come work for us now. So
Mr. Chairman, while he's looking for that, in 2012, 2013 was when we last addressed it, when I was on the board. That split was based on the call load between EMS and fire. And that's how we come up with the 27%. And the reason why we did it, I think it was against the GSA's proposal that they had sent us at the time, but we didn't see the reason in burdening the taxpayer with the fire assessment increase to pay for
EMS calls.
70 or 60-something% of EMS calls, being that only 27% of the calls that year were for fire. That percentage may have changed now, but that's where that number came from.
Thank you.
Thank you. I thought that was right.
to answer your question, it would go up, and this is ballpark figures because I don't have every figure I need in front of me, but the fire budget would go up roughly 1.5 million.
Yeehaw.
But
if you went to a 50-50 split, that just in salaries alone. So it's actually, I think, around 1.6, but that would free up.
EMS produces revenue.
It did.
Right, it did.
It still
does. It still does.
To
Yeah,
some
it's still
extent,
some.
yes.
I mean, they go on 911 call or whatever.
I think it's
and
actually
still-
going to be better now than it was before, as far as
I think
revenue to expense.
I think that ratio is going to get a lot better in favor of revenue. My point, where I was going with that, is if 27% of our calls are fire, and EMS is generating revenue even on a 911 call, I mean, if Lafayette, Madison, Hamilton, and Gilchrist, between those 5 counties, and I don't know what the total population is of those, they're running 5 stations and EMS, and I added up all those assessments, and they're at 213, which is, I would have to say, adding up those 1, 2, 3, 4 counties, Gilchrist, Hamilton, and Madison, and Lafayette, that it's more than 46,000 people. And they're running 5 stations and EMS, same way we are, at 213. We got 5 stations and 45,000 people. So, and I hear this every time we talk about this. And I don't mean to sound insensitive, but the life of our citizens matters 110% to me. But with that being said, so does their financial livelihood and putting groceries on their table for their kids. You can't outspend Mother Nature.
You can throw all the money you want at this, but when the Lord calls you home, you're going. And that's what I believe. So I don't mean to sound insensitive about that, but do I want to save my grandma's life when something happens in her house and she dials 911? 1,000%. And everybody else's grandma. Do I want my grandma to pay a $200 fire assessment? No. I want grandma to eat too and enjoy the last year she's got here. And I use that just as a loose analogy, but I want to save everybody's life. But
has that EMS contingency grown year after year?
It goes up and down every year depending on the expenditures that we use out of it.
Mr. Perkins, you were going to say something earlier?
Yes, sir. I was going to say here that I was in favor of increasing this to a $10 to bring it to 130. Offer motion to increase of $10 to 130. If we can't fund it out of the general treasury, then let's go ahead and do it $10 to bring it to 130. That's my motion.
I have a motion by Commissioner Perkins to raise it $10 to 130.
So, and just to be clear, if that's the direction of the board between the two, we're only raising it $20 a year per household, and we're going to spend $235 a year, or charge $235 a year for trash and $130 a year for fire and EMS, $100 less. I don't have a problem.
Hang on just a second.
I'm sorry. No, I didn't.
Can you hand her that mic, Chief?
Thank you, Eddie. Carol Lee Howe, address 7408169 Drive. I'm just puzzled. All this discussion about, we had solid waste and we went up $10, and I appreciate Commissioner Perkins mentioning, bringing that, how come we can spend so much on trash, but a human life is not worth it? We should be paying more for firing, because I know the value of what they do. I mean, it is irreplaceable. So, do the right thing, and just.
Yes, ma'am.
Excuse me.
Yes, ma'am.
You're gonna have to spend more money, and the citizens will have to understand, because one day they will need fire or ambulance, and if somebody's house is on fire and you can't go there because they have to wait for a truck. I mean, goodbye house, not that, it's just, come on guys, it's 8:30.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
So, yeah, I think so.
Thank you.
You guys understand what I'm saying?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
I'll second Commissioner Perkins' motion.
Motion by Commissioner Perkins to raise the fire assessment by $10 from 120 to 130. Second by Commissioner Hale. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Man, y'all own me tonight, ain't you? Making me think. 4-1, Commissioner Land saying no. Motion carries 4-1. Did I do that right? Am I good?
You did it right.
You did.
All right.
Can I just tell you, I had a staff report that I wanted to let you guys know of.
Sure.
I wish I'd have been able to do it then. But like I say, I apologize for not letting you know I had something tonight. I just wanted to bring to your attention, I was hoping to get them to come to the board meeting, but they preferred to do it at Winn-Dixie. Back on June 14th, we had a patient go into cardiac arrest in Winn-Dixie. The manager of the store, Anna Ginger, and a bystander, Stephen Little, immediately started CPR on this patient. Our guys were called and dispatched to CPR in progress. When they got on scene, they got to the back of the store. They were still actively doing CPR. Our guys our paramedics and EMTs got the Lucas machines that you guys graciously allowed us to purchase last year, got that on the patient, got him to the truck, and actually got ROSC on the patient. got him transferred to the helicopter. He was flown to Gainesville, and he's going to make a full recovery with no deficits whatsoever due to the quick actions of those two people starting the CPR on him. To make things even better, Miss Ginger actually took one of our CPR classes at the library. It's how she learned CPR. So we still do that monthly, free of charge for any citizen of Suwannee County. If they want a card, they have to pay for the card, but other than that, the class is free. And it just shows that it makes a difference. So between that, our fast response time, because it was right around the corner from the station, that patient's going to make a full recovery with zero deficits whatsoever. We did present a life-saving award to Ms. Ginger and Mr. Little. Like I said, it was last Thursday at Winn-Dixie. That's where they preferred to do it. And the patient's, he's still recovering and wasn't recovering well enough to come yet, but his entire family came and was there as well. So just wanted to let you guys know about that.
We appreciate that. Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Additional agenda items, are there any? Seeing none. Public concerns and comments. Anybody wishing to speak, or have you heard enough? Oh, that's right, I got a slip. Sorry. Walter Lowe. You doing it, Mr. Bowe? Are you representing this?
No.
Huh?
I just got
Is there a Walter Lowe here?
Yeah, he's right there. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Do you want him? You can go with me.
Well, you're fine. You're already there, so we'll move along.
Bo Hancock, Wiggins Road, Live Oak. Real quickly, what's the chances of getting, in the name of transparency and other things, of letting Mr. Norris come at least once a month at one of the two meetings, just to give an update on progress for economic development in the county? Where do we stand? What's going on?
He comes
at
every meeting, Mr. Bowe.
He doesn't give a total update.
That's because we ain't got all night.
Well, the people need to know.
I'm just making fun.
You know,
I'm
it
fine
won't
with
take
that.
him long. Instead, I could call him, and I could get the answers. The people, the taxpayers out there that watch the YouTube video wouldn't know because he told Bo. But Bo doesn't tell the taxpayers. Jimmy can do it from here. In the name of transparency, if nothing else. Let them know what the heck we're paying this money for.
I thought we were, but
Mr. Chairman, I would agree. I mean, he's up here running that mouth every doggone meeting. I mean, there's just some things he can't say. You know what I mean? Some of the projects he can't talk about.
Progress. Where do we stand? Look how long it took for Crystal Tractor to get built. What were some of the problems? We found out, but you know, that should have, you know, we should have been aware of some of these issues.
Crystal's in the city.
Yes, it is. But it's not part of economic development, is it?
And I doubt Mr. Norris probably knew what was going on with their
Oh, he
problems
knew.
of their construction. I mean, I can't speak for
He
Mr.
knew.
Norris, but I don't think he was out there every day.
But you don't think Crystal Tractor
I don't know what
was
the
part of
problem
economic
was.
development in this county?
Oh, yeah, I do. I'm just saying it's in the city, so I don't know how involved he was with it.
Jimmy, were you involved in Crystal Tractor at all? Any way, shape, form, or fashion?
Jimmy knows everything.
You know, that's what I'm getting at.
I understand what
you're sitting up there saying, you're telling the taxpayers that, nope, that's in the city, we didn't have anything to do with it. And you know that's a lie.
Jimmy, what did you have to do with Crystal Tractor? Because I'm not a liar.
In your official capacity. Just, did you do anything in your official capacity?
They applied for
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Sir? Sir? Well, I certainly don't mind giving a report for sure, but I'm not up to coming up here repeating myself every month. I'll say that. there's a lot of things I can't talk about. There's a lot of things I can, but Crystal Tractor, before it was Crystal Tractor, when it was Futch,
That's right.
I had involvement with the project. They applied for a grant, which the board approved. The grant was then transferred when Crystal bought it out. The project issues were not in the county, they were in the city. I sat in on some of the meetings to try to assist, but there was not a lot that I could do as far as helping them like I tried to do.
And I appreciate that. My point with that was, Mr. Bowe, is what the city or what the county did to help the Futch, which is now Crystal, was the grant that they applied for, which was on the agenda, which was talked about, and we talked about it. Jimmy sat in with them to try to help them with some of the city zoning, whatnot, but I don't know that that's public information for him to go tell this podium the troubles that Futch is running into on their construction project with city ordinances or city whatever it may be. I mean, like, he sat in as a favor for Futch, so I just want to be clear on what it is exactly you want him to tell you.
I was asked by the owner to sit in, so I did.
So that,
I'm not going to get into a peeing contest up here at this.
well, I'm not either, but I'm just like, what?
If there's a monthly report, he does get up here a lot.
I understand.
But he has a heck of a lot of knowledge of what's going on in this county. Y'all are spending a ton of money out there to bring in economic development in this county. But you're sitting up there, and I don't say that. Don't get too far off. All I want is just an update. Let the people know. Like I said, I can call Jimmy and ask for an update. What's going on with this? Or that project? Truly, where do we stand on Truly? What the hell happened there? I don't know. I know part of it. But Jimmy knows more.
I understand.
And I could ask, and he'll tell me what he can. Who's telling the taxpayers where we stand?
I think
we're going for economic development.
I think, Mr. Hancock, I think where the disconnect is maybe you think that we're intentionally withholding information. I'll tell you whatever you want to know, as long as I'm not bound by an NDA from some company coming. And I would tell Jimmy to tell you or anybody else at this podium, in this meeting, anything they want to do. There's no effort on any of our parts to withhold anything. So if there's something you don't know, I don't know that you don't know it until you ask it. I mean, because look at what we're doing. We got 9,000 things up here.
I can call you. You can tell me. Okay, there's 46,000 people in this county, or thereabouts. How many of them are in here? The people looking at the video don't know.
We could do better.
What the questions were that you told me the answers to.
We could do better being forthcoming. All I'm saying is sometimes it's when you sit up here for 2.5 hours and talk about fire assessments and solid waste assessments and everything else that we went through tonight, sometimes maybe we forget, but we will try to do better to be forthcoming with that
I thought we
information.
was doing a better job, just by the way. I think things are a lot more transparent now. I think we're getting a lot more updates from staff. We even getting the engineer in here to give us an update, but yet you're scolding me again. I don't get it.
All I'm asking,
you've hurt me. Scarred me
get
for
some
life.
updates. My point being, I can call y'all and get answers. My neighbors, unless they call you or I go talk to them, they don't get those answers.
Point taken.
Gotcha.
Gotta move along.
That's my whole point.
I understand.
Point taken. Thank you, sir. Mr. Lowe. I already know where this is headed.
8504 200th Street, McAlpin. First of all, thanks. With all these important issues, I've certainly learned a lot tonight. You're listening to my somewhat simple plea Hopefully it will save the county a little bit of money and certainly make the residents of 200th Street much happier. If you guys know, 200th Street is a unpaved road, and very familiar with unpaved roads, being that I grew up in a realtor family and was a realtor myself for a while, and my parents-in-law lives some 60 years on an unpaved road. And then borrowing from my college days where I took a transportation course, I quickly learned that an unpaved road is just above an alleyway on the list of hierarchy. Unpaved roads are more or less for the use of the residents of that road to obviously get to their homes, get deliveries such as mail, propane, farm equipment, whatever. I've lived there for 5 years, and I can tell you that there is an enormous amount of traffic on that road that is not resident related. To give you an example, I would guess there's at least 10 18-wheelers a week that go up and down that road. And I've followed some of them, and they're just going between 129 and 49 or vice versa. They also traverse that road late at night. Had one 2 weeks ago, woke me up 12:30 in the morning. Had to be going 50 miles an hour down that road. But anyhow, I have some suggestions to hopefully correct that problem. One, I noticed that in traveling around the county, 200th Street is graded as well and as often as any other unpaved road in this county that I've seen anyhow, which in some ways is a good thing. Unfortunately, it puts a huge green light on people using that road as a thoroughfare. Also, it puts a huge green light on people going 45, 50 miles or even faster down the road, even though the speed limit is 30 miles an hour. So I propose some ideas. One, do not grade it as often. Makes it a little rougher, saves the county money. Number two, signage. I was just on the road that runs parallel to 129 in Branford. Nice big sign, no through truck traffic. So you could easily put some signs up to that nature to try to stop these huge trucks. Because besides the 18-wheelers, I even saw a 22-wheeler one time with a great big piece of construction equipment. Lots of the big dump trucks come down that are, 10-wheelers or something like that. Lots of other things with trailers, different sorts of trucks pulling trailers or whatever, zipping up and down that road. Possibly another great sign would be vehicles over 4 wheels, 20 miles an hour. Probably the most important thing you could do to make sure these trucks slow down and make it far less advantageous for them to use the road is to put a 4-way stop sign at 89th Street and a 3-way stop sign at 77th Street. That would force the traffic to slow down. And I'll tell you, when one of these big old 18-wheelers, especially when it's dry like it is right now, comes barreling down that road at 50 miles an hour, totally engulfs all the houses on that street in thick dust and dirt, which is very unpleasant, especially since my wife, 2 years ago after she contacted COVID, has developed breathing problems. I mean, she literally cannot go outside when these trucks are zipping up and down there. And then hopefully with dropping all the truck traffic off of there, You certainly will not have to grade it as often, which will save the county money because there won't be near as much tear on the road. So that is my proposal. Hopefully you guys will listen to it and help the people on 200th Street to improve their life considerably because, you know, houses, animals, plants are constantly being engulfed in, you know, massive amounts of dust from this traffic that should not be on the road.
Well, Mr. Lowe, I got your phone number. That's in my district. I'm well aware of the road you're talking about. Since we're so late tonight, how about I just give you a call and we'll discuss it some more?
That would
That's
be
okay
great.
with you?
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? We'll close public comment.
The mayor had his hand up.
Huh?
The mayor had his hand up.
He ain't got nothing to say. I'd take his turn in Duncan booth yesterday. He ain't got no talking room up here. Administrator's comments. Anything, Mr. Scott?
Just a reminder, you've got a copy of the proposed personnel rules and the purchasing policies. Please review those. Let me know before the next meeting, or actually before next Monday, so we can get those changes, so I can make those changes when we get them moving forward. That situation today where we needed to buy a trailer and supervisors don't have the authority to do that, so we need to change that if we can.
Before you get past that,
Sure.
I thought we were going to put that on a workshop thing again.
Well, we said we'd just handle it at a meeting instead. I mean, if y'all let me know ahead of time, we can go ahead and make changes. If any concerns,
Roger that.
then we can save a few hours. Only other thing I've got is a good FAC meeting. When the county managers meetings, I realized how far we need to go. And one guy talked about, he was relatively new, felt like he was drinking water out of the fire hose. I understand. So anyway, but I appreciate y'all being there that could, and know that others couldn't. But thank y'all, and that's all I've got.
Thank you, sir. Adam, you got anything?
I do. We have the redistricting workshop Wednesday next week. We're having that with the school board. I've emailed it to you, but I've also got hard copies here of the redistricting materials. And ask that y'all grab a copy so that way you can have reviewed it for the meeting next week. And
do we need all commissioners there? Is that?
It's a workshop, so come and go at your leisure, I suppose. That's where we're going to be discussing it, and that's where Kurt Spitzer, the redistricting expert, will be going over the districts. If you look at the materials, I mean, there's, being candid, there's a 2-to-1 difference between District 5 and District 2 in terms of population. So redistricting is essential. We're violating the Constitution if we leave it as it is. So the districts are going to have to be changed. So
That just means all y'all got to be there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sorry, I could have given a one-word answer to that.
Is that it?
Yeah, and I'll just pass it down.
Commissioner Perkins,
Thank you, Chairman.
closing comments.
Yes, sir. I enjoyed the fight conference, and also I went and attended the funeral for Dante. I did let them know that the Chairman White, and the board sent their condolences for him, and we did appreciate his services as an employee for the county. He was on there running the equipment, so I did let his mom and his fiance know that we were sending our condolences. And also they would thank Mandy, she did send a flower. We did have a flower sent there to them. They appreciate the flower sending out. Also, I did attend the services at Westwood for God Country. He had a great service there also.
Thank you, Tyrone.
Representatives.
Thank
Yes,
you,
sir.
Tyrone.
Hey, man, what's happening? Man.
I thank everybody for coming. I got to keep the Williams
Thank you,
family
Mr. Chairman.
in your prayers as well with their loss this week. William.
Mr. Mobley.
Yeah.
Mr. Land.
No, sir, I'm good tonight.
Commissioner Hale.
9:10.
Good, just
Thank everybody for being here.
I just had a great time at Florida Association of Counties, learned a lot, got to talk to a lot of people, great time. Had the 4th of July down at Brantford yesterday. It was hot, and Donnie didn't show up to dunk, so I got dunked for 2 hours yesterday. I mean, I got dunked so much, Donnie, I ain't got no skin left on my leg down here. So you owe me big time, just by the way. Anyhow, thank y'all for coming. With that, I just need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Hale, second by Commissioner Perkins. All in favor, aye?
Aye. Thank you. Long night. Wow.